Hokage married Kushina and became Naruto's father. Episode 101, 5 Shadows Talks? Ye Feng thought it was funny. What would they think if they knew that the hidden villain behind it was themselves? However, the next time you appear as Uchiha, be careful not to be recognized. That set of red armor has been hidden by Ye Feng, and it will be said when it needs to be used. Just as Ye Feng was thinking about how to hold the 5 Shadows meeting, Sarutobi came over. Although Sarutobi Hinata has already withdrawn from the front line, he still cares about the affairs of Konoha and even the entire ninja world. Hearing that Uchiha was resurrected again, Sarutobi immediately came to Hokage's office. "Fourth Hokage, are you busy now?" Sarutobi said politely. Ye Feng looked up and saw that it was an ape flying sun, and said slightly, "Old." "Hokage, you sit." Sarutobi nodded and sat down. The current ape flying sun chop looks like an ordinary retired middle-aged and elderly, but sitting in front of Ye Feng, there is still a faint power of the fire shadow. He coughed and said, "I heard that Uchiha has appeared again? Is his body sure it's okay?" Ye Feng nodded and said, "Yes, the appearance of this Uchiha spot is a bit suspicious. For generations of Hokage, I think it's time to hold the 5 Shadows talks. After all, Yunin village was destroyed overnight, and the 3 generations of Thunder Shadow and tens of thousands of ninja villagers died tragically. This is not a small matter. Ding, based on the current situation of the host, give 3 choices. Option 1, refuse to summon the 5 Kages to talk. Reward, S-class character card, Pepperfish Hanzo. Option 2, hold 5 talks, and set the location in Konoha with the other 4 shadows. Reward, S-class character card, the original Thunder Shadow. Option 3, hold 5 talks, set the location in Yuin village, the junction of the 3 major ninja villages, and reward, S-class character Uchiha Itachi, Xiao. Ye Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. Choose 3. Uchiha Itachi's character card, Xiao. As long as you complete option 3, then you can collect Uchiha Itachi's character card and synthesize SSS level Uchiha Itachi, Susanoo. As for option 1 and option 2, in the face of option 3, it is not so attractive. Ye Feng pondered, nodded, and said, "Yes, the 3 generations of Hokage, you are right, it is inevitable to hold the 5 Shadows talks." Sarutobi was very satisfied. However, Ye Feng said again, "But in our Konoha village, I don't think it's very suitable, and it's quite good in Yuin village." Yuin village held the 5 Shadows meeting? Ape Fei frowned and said, "Ye Feng, if you want to hold the 5 Shadows talks in Yuin village, you must get permission from Hanzo. I'm afraid it's not easy." Hanzo can be called a demigod, and the reason why he became a demigod is because he single-handedly pacified the war-torn Yuin village at the junction of the 3 villages. In addition, Hanzo's strength is also top in the ninja world, and the most important thing is that his poisonous gas can weaken the enemy before the war begins. In a rainy environment like Yuin village, the poisonous gas lethality of Hanzo can be increased by 100%, which is why Hanzo is located in Yuin village. With Hanzo's cautious personality, he may not agree to the 5 Shadows meeting in Yuin village. 5 Shadows are not good at forcing Hanzo to the pepperfish. Because the strength of Hanzo in Yuin village has increased too much, it is difficult to force Hanzo even if you want to force Hanzo. Moreover, why hold the 5 Shadows talks in Yuin village? This is undoubtedly a bad relationship with Hanzo, which is not in line with the political philosophy of Ape Flying Sun. The concept of Ape Flying Sun chopping is biased towards the first generation, and peace is precious. Then, when Ape Flying Sun Chopper heard Ye Feng say that he must hold a meeting of the 5 Shadows in Yuin village, his eyes were about to pop out. "Ye Feng, isn't it okay to offend Hanzo like this?" Ye Feng didn't care at all and said, "What offend? He knows the current affairs and gives me a good arrangement. If he does not know the current affairs, I will arrange him well." As soon as these words came out, everyone else in the office lowered their heads. They thought to themselves that the 4th generation of Hokage-sama was too fierce. Even if it is a demigod mountain pepperfish Hanzo, it is completely true, which is like the Hokage of the 1st shinobi village. The 3 generations of Hokage-sama were too humble in comparison. During the time that Ye Feng sat in Konoha, whether it was upper shinobi, lower shinobi, or villagers, they all felt that they had more confidence. When the 3rd generation of Hokage heard Yokaede's words, he sighed and said, "Hey, Yokaede, I just don't want Konoha's ninjas and villagers to suffer too many unnecessary casualties. The real war, the worst is the lowest shinobi and the villagers." Ye Feng nodded and said, "I understand, I'll just go and talk to Hanzo in person." Well, since Ye Feng said so, Ape Flying Sun Chopper also had nothing to say. In fact, in addition to the factor of Hanzo, Yuin village, which is located at the junction of the 3 villages, is indeed an excellent meeting place. Not long after Sarutobi Hinata, Tsunade came again. Tsunade pressed his hands on the table, almost breaking the table. It was so great that it almost brightened Ikide's eyes. "You said you were going to find Hanzo?" Tsunade remembers the battle 10 years ago. She and Jiraiya, as well as the Big Snake Pill, the 3 top shinobi, plus no less than 0 elite Shainin, almost 20 people to fight a team of people on Hanzo's side, they can't win. In the end, he was humiliated and was given the title of Konoha-san Shinobi by Hanzo. The horror of Hanzo at that time, Tsunade, is still fresh in his memory. The main thing is that poisonous gas, which weakens the opponent's nervous reaction. For ninjas, the difference of 1 second is often between life and death. The name of the demigod is not a joke, at least in the eyes of the world. Hanzo is equivalent to the existence of half-ninja god. Ye Feng, I advise you not to mess with Hanzo. How many people have thought about defeating Hanzo to make a name for themselves? Now in Yuin village, those dry bones are piled up into a hill. Ding, given the host's current situation, give 3 choices. Option 1, agree to Tsunade's suggestion to cancel the plan for the 5 Kages talks in Yuin village. Reward, S-class character card Orochimaru, Konoha Sanshin, Tsunade good feeling -10. Option 2, ignore Tsunade's suggestion and arrange the plan for the meeting of the 5 Kages in Yuin village. Reward, S-class character card Jiraiya, Konoha Sanshin, Tsunade favor +10. Option 3, bet with Tsunade. Reward, S-class copy, Konoha Sanshin vs Demigod Hanzo, Tsunade favor +20. Agreed to Tsunade's suggestion, but made Tsunade feel good 10? Instead, ignoring advice and bets, making Tsunade's favor increase? Women are so strange. Ye Feng looked at Tsunade and smiled. Tsunadeheim, do you want to make a bet? Bet, I never to. Lost. Tsunade snorted and shook. Ye Feng's eyelids jumped and said, you said that the pepperfish Hanzo is so powerful. If I can make the pepperfish Hanzo give in and hold a meeting of the 5 shadows in Yuin village. Tsunade looked at Yorikai and said, if you can make Hanzo submit to the pepperfish, I will treat you to a meal. Ye Feng smiled and said, okay. Hanzo, the name of the demigod, is also famous in the entire ninja world, everyone knows it, and everyone recognizes that he belongs to the top powerhouse. After the Second Ninja World War, the name of the demigod was even raised above the 5 shadows for a time. Because Hanzo's experience is so legendary. You know, for so many years in the ninja world, there are countless strong people who have become famous, and the top positions are often the strong people in the 5 major ninja villages, among which the 5 of the 5 major ninja villages are the most representative. However, Hanzo is the leader of a small rainy hidden village, but he is on a par with the 5 Kages. Even in many small ninja villages that were inferior to Yuin village, his reputation was much higher than that of the 5 shadows. Because of the rise of Hanzo, they felt that the small ninja village could also come forward. But for so many years, only one demigod appeared. In this way, the name of Hanzo and demigod became even louder. In any case, Hanzo's strength is undoubted, and under his leadership, Yuin village is also thriving. With the sudden decline of Wuin village, the sudden destruction of Yunin village, and the sudden surrender of Shaoyin village, now the reputation of Yuin village in the ninja world and the reputation of Hanzo of the pepperfish have all faintly improved a lot. Some people even say that Yuin village is now ranked in the top 3. Just after Konoha and Iwahide village. Many of these avid admirers are now ninjas of the Rain Hidden village. And now, on behalf of Konoha, Ye Feng asked for the 5 shadows talks to be held in Yuin village, where the 3 major ninja villages of the 3 major countries meet, which made the whole of Yunin village very dissatisfied, and they all expressed their boycott of the 4 generations of Hokage, boycott Konoha, and boycott the 5 Kage talks. The 4th generation of Hokage demanded, what qualifications does he have to ask us in Yuin village? Our Yuin village is also a great shinobi village. That's right, our Yuin village is not something that those old ninja villages can bully now. What 5 shadows talks, get out of here. Yes, we demigods are the first people in the ninja world. The buildings of Yunin village are mainly made of steel and stone, and unlike Konoha, which is based on mud and wood, Yuin is based on stone. It is also because of the perennial rain, the iron is heavily supported, and wood is added as a decoration, and there is a very strong European Gothic style. The buildings of Yunin village are lined up by many large and small steel pipes inside and out, creating a unique scenery. Its towering spires, slender bundled columns, vertical upward rise, towering, steel, pipes form a sense of mystery. The ninjas and villagers of Yuin village all live underneath, and the dead people are placed at the top of the tower, which adds a lot of horror. Simply put, it's a cyberpunk-style city. And it rains all year round. The central tower of Yuin village, at the top of which is an iron statue of Hanzo, standing on top of the pepperfish, which is the residence of Hanzo. In the center of the first floor inside, there is a splendid attic, which is evenly divided and blocked everywhere, and the people inside cannot be seen clearly, and in the 4 directions, there is an elite shinobu guarding it. From time to time, ninjas will enter the prayers. Pray to Hanzo-sama. Konoha village once again requests that the 5 Kages talks be held in Yuin village, and Hanzo, who was inside the screen, said lightly, and what? The 4th generation of Hokage also said that the one who knows the time is Junjie. Ha ha ha. The figure in the screen laughed, and the light and shadow swayed. Hanzo laughed for a while before saying, the fourth generation of Hokage, a hairy boy under 20 years old, speaks so loudly? Really think that killing a Danzo and killing a dying Uchiha is very remarkable? Hanzo sighed and said, continue to refuse, don't pay attention to the Konoha side. The Konoha side wants to hold the Five Shadows talks here in our Yuin village. It will definitely be ill-intentioned. Obviously the other four Kages said to go to Konoha, but the four Hokage refused, and then asked to hold a meeting with the five Kages. Am I a fool when I am Hango? At this time, Ye Feng came to Yuin village alone. The shadow avatar works in Konoha village and continues to confuse everyone. Yuin village is shrouded in rain. Continuous raindrops hit the low-hanging eaves, like pearls, dripping down one by one. Tick, tick. The never-ending drizzle seems to be the country's eternal sign. On the potholed ground, puddles accumulate everywhere. The rain spread out, blurring the boundaries, and it was impossible to distinguish between the ground and the water. The whole country seems to be built on water. Although the war had stopped for several years, Ye Feng saw that on the edge of Yuin village, there were ruined houses everywhere and ruined. It is a very strong contrast with the steel-tall buildings in the distance. In front of Ye Qi's eyes, the refugees of the Land of Rain formed a refugee squadron on the border of the Land of Rain. These refugees watched Ye Feng's sudden appearance, and they all showed a look of fear, and they all hid in the ruined houses. Ye Feng approached and found many broken houses, and even corpses. Some of these corpses were killed, some were starved to death, and many of them were even strewn on the streets. Doesn't it mean that Yuin village is very developed? Why is the French so bleak? Ye Feng's face was full of curiosity and walked into this ruined area. While walking, Ye Feng's ears moved, and there was a series of sounds of footsteps stepping on the water around him. Soon, around Ye Feng, 7 ninjas with fierce faces appeared. All of them were the strength of Shimo Shinobu and Naka Shinobi, but they looked at Ye Feng viciously. The corners of Ye Feng's mouth turned up slightly. In such a place, there are still people who are robbed. It seems that he is dressed brightly, and in the eyes of these people, he has become a little fat sheep. Before Ye Feng came to Yuin village, he also specially checked the information, but after coming to Yuin village, how did he feel different from what he expected? The periphery is also too backward and dilapidated, right? The people here are too poor to eat, and the houses are dilapidated. But in the center of the distance, it is completely different, steel towers. The one at the head is a middle ninja, with a huge cross scar on his nose, very hideous, and looked at Ye Feng coldly and said, hey, take out everything on your body, we're just robbing. Don't move, otherwise you're welcome to blame me. Ye Feng looked at them with a smile and did not speak. Because, there is still a group of people. At this moment, a series of white papers shot onto the feet of these 7 shinobi, and the white paper was very sharp and directly inserted into the ground. These 7 subordinate shinobi suddenly showed a panicked look. At this time, 3 people jumped from the height. They were all dressed in black robes. The man at the head had orange-red hair and wore the forehead of Yuin village, with a righteous face and bright eyes. On the left and right, a man and a woman, the man's red hair, revealing a rippled eye, the eye of reincarnation. The woman has purple-blue hair, coiled hair, a blue paper flower, and a pair of amber eyes, which is particularly charming. Ye Feng looked at them and was slightly stunned. Isn't this Yahiko, Nagato, and Konan? At this time, they were very young. The shinobi who threatened Yokai just now saw the appearance of Yahiko, Nagato, and Konan, first panicked, and then revealed a fierce color. Yahiko, why are you guys again? You know there's too much nosy organization. Know the organization? Ye Feng looked at Yahiko, who was not dead at this time. So, this Shao organization is still the purpose led by Yahiko. By changing countries, building bridges of hope to world peace, through people-to-people exchanges. This wish was beautiful, but it was deceived by Hanzo and Danzo joining forces. In the end, Yahiko voluntarily bumps into Nagato's Kunsui in order to protect his companions. I heard that I was only 15 years old at that time, and now it seems that it is almost this time? However, the appearance of Ye Feng caused Tuanzong to die so much earlier. The cooperation between Hanzo and Danzo is gone. The entire future of Hokage was disrupted by Night Kid. In such a situation, will Yahiko still die? Ye Feng suddenly became curious. And Yahiko's side is still theorizing with the ninja who robbed. Nakanin roared angrily, Yahiko, every time you say how wonderful the world will be, but now we are going to starve to death. And what is the ideal for the future? We don't want to live in a dilapidated house all day, we also want to live in it, we don't want to eat those cold dry food, we also want to eat hot meals and hot dishes. You talk about world peace, you talk about love, you are going to starve to death, what kind of peace and love do you talk about? Ye Feng clapped his palms and said, well, that's right, I'm starving, and everything I talk about is fake. That Zhong was confused, why did this guy suddenly stand on his side? You must know that he was still robbing this guy just now. Everyone was stunned, this guy is really big. Ye Feng was surprised by everyone's reaction, what's wrong? am I wrong? Xiaonan frowned and said, do you know your current situation? You've been robbed, and Nagato also looked at Ye Feng, and the reincarnation I was looking at Ye Feng, and suddenly, he showed a surprised look, and quickly exclaimed, Yahiko, Conan, step back. Nan's face changed, and he hurriedly retreated, opened the distance, and looked at Ye Feng suspiciously. When the others heard Nagato's words, they also quickly opened the distance. Only Yahiko was still standing in place, looking at Ye Feng's eyes, still so gentle. I heard that when Yahiko was still around, Nagato took Yahiko's horse as the leader. Yahiko's kind of character, the strength is not weak, there are dreams, ambitions, and a personality charm that makes people approachable, opening and closing his mouth is love and peace, and there is a little brother with a plug-in by his side, a proper protagonist's life. If he doesn't die halfway, he may be able to realize his dream in the future. The more Nagato looked at the night maple, the more he couldn't see the night maple clearly, and only felt the unfathomable depth of the night maple. He pointed at Ye Feng trembling and said, you, who the hell is it? Ye Feng smiled and said, me? For generations of Hokage, night maples, for generations of Hokage? Everyone present widened their eyes, looked at Ye Feng, and gasped for air. Is the fourth generation Hokage so young? The news of the poor people in Yuin village is relatively closed, although they know that the third generation of Hokage in Konoha is retired and the fourth generation of Hokage is on this stage of history, but they do not know that the fourth generation of Hokage is so young. The 7 ninjas who had robbed Night Maple just now said in disbelief, you said that you are Hokage and Hokage? Yahiko and Conan, on the other hand, both looked at Nagato. Nagato said in a deep voice, he does have the strength of the shadow level, no, the strength beyond the shadow level. As soon as these words came out, the eyes of Yahiko and Xiaonan looking at Ye Feng were completely different. At this time it was a fool who could see that something was wrong. The 7 robbery ninjas, although their faces were full of disbelief, their legs trembled and they had slowly retreated. However, at this time, under their feet, tree roots and vines suddenly drilled out, tied their legs directly, and dragged them back to their original places. Let go of me. Help. Let me go. They are constantly struggling, but they are constantly tied up, tighter and tighter. And Yahiko, Nagato, and Conan, who were watching from the side, all showed surprised looks. Mu Dun is really the 4th generation of Hokage. At this time, Naka Shinobu, who was still angry just now, had already knelt down and begged for mercy. Lord Naruto, you have a large number of adults, let me live a dog. The other 6 ninjas also kowtowed to Yikid. At this time, they looked closely and found that the raindrops fell around Ye Feng's body, and were directly bounced off by the chakra that burst out, and they couldn't wet Ye Feng's body at all. Ye Feng's whole body is still as clean as new, and there is not a drop of rain at all. Just now they were really blind to the dog's eyes, so they didn't find it. Yahiko hurriedly said, Naruto-sama, they also did not mean it, and we have stopped them just now. They have also apologized for their disrespect to you, please let them go. Now Ye Feng looked at Yahiko, and he could feel Yahiko's special personality charm. Even standing in place and not talking can make people feel close. Ye Feng smiled and said, when did I say I wanted to kill them? I just wanted them to tell me about things here. Why does Yuin village look so poor? As soon as these words came out, Yahiko's face relaxed, and at the same time, he showed a look of shame. Yes, the Hokage of Konoha came here and felt too poor. This made Yahiko feel so ashamed. Why is there a slum in Yuin village? Why is the periphery so poor? Episode 102. Ye Feng left the 3 people of the Shao organization, as well as the 7 ninjas who robbed. Listening to them, Ye Feng knew the difference between the external image of Yuin village and the real image. The image of Yuin village to the outside is a rising ninja village. In fact, almost all the ordinary civilians on the periphery have become paupers, and the people who really enjoy the development benefits of Yuin village are those upper-class families living in the heart of the land of rain, and the elite shinobi. In the past 5 years, because of the cessation of the war, the promotion channel of the ninja village has encountered a stagnation, and a large number of ordinary ninjas have no battle merits and have been staying at the bottom. At the same time, high-level elite ninjas, relying on their original power, stabilized their position in the rain-hidden village in the land of rain, and excluded the new families who wanted to ascend to the throne. Now the internal friction of Yuin village is very large. Ye Feng had just come to the outskirts of Yuin village, and he couldn't have imagined such a situation. Many people could not survive, so they died in the slums on the outskirts of Yuin village. There are also many people who cannot survive, so they become displaced people, even if they rebel. Lucky people, wandering to other ninja villages, without being killed, may enter other ninja villages and become villagers and ninjas of other ninja villages. Unfortunate people hang up halfway through wandering, or go to other ninja villages and kill them directly as people of unknown origin. Yahiko said, the current situation in Yuin village, we want to change, at least, the slums on the periphery should not exist, and we civilians should also have our own food. Because Ye Feng didn't make a move, the Naka Shinobu who took the lead in robbing was not too afraid, and pouted, can we get food with our mouths? If we want to really get food, we must go to war. Ye Feng smiled and said, war? Isn't it you who are the ones who are dead? Yahiko quickly nodded in agreement and said, the fourth generation of Hokage-sama is right. War is merciless. How many families have been broken because of the war? How many orphans have been born in the war? After so many years, is there still a scene like this in Yuin village? That Naka ninja stared at Yahiko and said, Yahiko, I know you are very strong, but you are really naive. Do not fight. We people, all our lives, are inferior. As long as the war, we exchange our lives for battle merits, it is possible to become the upper echelon, the high level. Ye Feng suddenly felt that in comparison, Konoha's situation was much better than that of Yuin village. The high-rise and upper floors on this side of Yunin village may not be worse than those on the side of Konoha village, but in terms of the bottom level, the difference is too far. This is the difference between the ninja village that is under development and the real big ninja village. Ye Feng suddenly said, haven't you thought about change? Nakado's face changed, and he stopped talking. Even Nagato and Konan were silent. Only Yahiko said, change is inevitable, Yuin village can't go on like this. Konan immediately stopped Yahiko and said, Yahiko, don't say any more. Yahiko looked at Xiaonan and said, don't be afraid, as I said, we know that the organization is to achieve the purpose of change through non-violent forms, and we want to unite all the middle and lower ninja and become a force to be reckoned with. Yokai looked at Yahiko, this ideal is really great. But it's not realistic at all. How can it be done without the barrel of a gun? After Ye Feng roughly understood the situation in Yuin village, he stood up and said, okay, I know, who can show me the way? I want to go into the center and see Hanzo of the pepperfish. Everyone's faces suddenly changed. Yahiko said a little stuck, fourth Hokage-sama, what are you going to do? Well, I wanted to hold the 5 Shadows talks here, and I sent several invitations in a row, and even we were willing to open the trade routes between the Land of Rain and the Land of Fire and start free trade between the two sides, but Hanzo was unwilling, so I came in person. This is an informal meeting, I just happened to meet a few of your children, and I also encountered strange things. Others you look at me, I look at you. Nagato couldn't help but say, for generations of Hokage-sama, we are also poor people on the periphery, and we are not qualified to enter the central area at all, and there are 4 gates in the east, west, south and north of the central area, and there are elite shinobi guarding to prevent people from outside from entering. Everyone else nodded. However, Yahiko muttered, 4th Hokage-sama, if I can help you get in, can you do me a favor? Ye Feng shook his head and said, no, you misunderstood, you are not helping me, you are helping Yuin village, I can go in directly, no one can stop me. As soon as these words came out, everyone fell silent. They didn't expect Ye Feng to say this at all. Yahiko's mouth opened slightly, he didn't expect Ye Feng to say this, but from the little performance of Yokai lifting weight just now, and Nagato's terrified reaction, Yahiko knew that the young man in front of him who was similar to them was very terrifying. He believed that Ye Feng would be able to do so. Thinking of this, Yahiko sighed and said, okay, Lord 4 Hokage, I'll take you inside. Yahiko. Yahiko stopped Nagato and Konan, saying, you guys go back first, I'll take the 4th generation of Hokage-sama, over. After speaking, Yahiko looked at Ikid. Ye Feng nodded and said, okay, then thank you. Then, Ye Feng followed Yahiko away, leaving behind the confused people. After a while, the 7 ninjas looked at Nagato and Konan, turned and left. As soon as he walked away, the Naka shinobu who took the lead hurriedly said, let's hurry up and pray to Hanzo-sama that the 4th generation of Hokage secretly infiltrated our Yuin village, which is a first-class achievement. As soon as these words came out, everyone's eyes lit up. Yes, this matter is up, maybe you can make a good impression in front of Hanzo-sama, maybe you can teach powerful ninjutsu or weapons. You look at me, I look at you, and suddenly, countless white papers float around them. Huh? Everyone looked up suspiciously, to see Xiaonan floating in the air, wings formed by white paper, spreading out on her back like angels. Rumble. 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 Nope. The sound of continuous explosions, accompanied by a scream, and the collapsed dilapidated house, the 7 ninjas have been buried. Xiaonan looked at the ruins in front of him and turned back with his mouth pursed. Nagato frowned and said, Konan, do you need this? If you don't kill them, they will only send a tip, and for Yahiko's sake, I have to do it. At this time, Yahiko took Yaki through several dilapidated iron gates and walked through a small path. When he came out, Ye Feng found that he had entered Yuin village. It's the kind of steel tower he saw in the information, cyberpunk style. It was raining continuously, and Ye Feng followed Yahiko's lead, and suddenly, he was stopped by a Yunin Murakami shinobu. Who are you? This kami shinobu of Yuin village stopped Yokai and Yahiko and asked vigilantly. Sir, this is my friend, who came from Yunin village. He has always been very curious about Yuin village, so I brought him in to have a look. Yahiko said, seeing that this superior was not impressed, he secretly took out thousands of taels of money and quickly sent it into the hands of the other party. This is a little heart, please accept it. This Shangnan was stunned for a moment, and immediately looked at Yahiko, and then looked at Ye Feng, and snorted, and said, "You know the rules, there are some places you can't go, don't be curious, sometimes curiosity kills cats. Let's go." Then, this Kamishinobu let Yahiko and Yokaide go. Yahiko breathed a sigh of relief and looked at the knight. "My lord, this is the money I have on me." Ye Feng was stunned for a moment and said, "Is it?" Suddenly, another shadow doppelganger came out of Shaoli, holding a money bag. "This is your reward." Yahiko was stunned for a moment, took the money bag. "This money bag is a little familiar, it won't be the one who shinobi just now, right? When I open it, my eyes are about to pop out." The top pile of money is the money he just gave, and there is also a propaganda slogan printed on the Shao organization, which must be right. Yahiko took a deep breath and walked to the alley, where the Kamishinobu fell to the ground, and he was suddenly cold. It's only been a few seconds? At this time, Yahiko understood why Nagato was so afraid before. This fourth-generation Hokage, the grade is not much different from himself, but the strength is too terrifying. "It's okay, he just fainted, I didn't kill him, let's go." Yahiko was stunned for a moment, and quickly said, "Naruto-sama, over here." Soon, Yahiko took Yokai to the door of the residence where Hanzo was. Just at the end of the alley opposite the door. Yahiko said, "My lord, there is it, look at the stone statue on the top floor, this is the Hanzo Tower, I can only take you here." Ye Feng nodded and said, "Okay." Yahiko glanced at Naruto and said, "Then, Naruto-sama, see you soon." With that, Yahiko turned and left, however, he took 2 steps and turned back. "Wait a minute." Yokai looked at Yahiko strangely. Yahiko pondered and said, "I'll go in with you, maybe something, I can still ask Hanzo-sama to spare your life." Ye Feng suddenly said curiously, "Have you ever seen a pepperfish Hanzo? I've met before, Hanzo-sama is a generous person, as long as you don't offend ruthlessly, he can still let you go." Ye Feng smiled and said, "Is it? Is Hanzo such a person?" No wonder Yahiko will die, he doesn't understand people's hearts. Perhaps Hanzo, a young man, was a hero, but as he grew older, he naturally became suspicious. At this time, inside the steel tower, an elite shinobu outside the Hanzo screen of the pepperfish suddenly said, "Hanzo-sama, someone is coming." "Who?" "One of them is Yahiko, the leader of the Shao organization in our Yuin village, and the other one doesn't know, I can't see through his strength." When Hanzo heard this, he frowned and sent someone to give it a try. As he spoke, the pepperfish was half hidden in the screen, looking at a screen that was divided into countless squares, all of which were camera images around here. This is the most advanced technology in the ninja continent, and the value of each camera is more than 1 million taels, and here, there are more than 50 camera images. Hanzo clicked one of the squares, and the square immediately zoomed in, showing that the night maple appeared in the camera. Here, there is a 5-person squad led by the elite shinobi. On all sides of this place, there are guards, this is the discreet pepperfish Hanzo. In the next second, the 5 squad, all turned into mummies bound by roots and vines, and Ye Feng walked over, followed by Yahiko shivering. Hanzo frowned, this mysterious person is a little ridiculously strong, who is it? Suddenly glancing at the 5 bound ninjas, Hanzo suddenly opened his eyes and his breathing became rapid. Mu Duan. Hanzo probably guessed the identity of the comer. It's just that this person, so bold, came alone? It's really a skilled man. Let him in, Hanzo said suddenly. Hanzo-sama. Hanzo said lightly, you can't stop him, let him in. Yikit had just entered the Hanzo Tower, and the passages were all steel and metal, which was completely different from Konoha village. Just came in, and immediately saw an elite shinobi. This lord, please come in, Hanzo-sama has a request. Ye Feng was stunned for a moment and nodded. When I came in just now, I felt right, and the moment I came, I was discovered. But Ye Feng didn't care, and found that he didn't find it, it's all the same. And Yahiko behind him widened his eyes even more. Hanzo-sama actually invited them in. Yahiko glanced at Naruto-sama, and sure enough, it was Naruto-sama. Soon, Ye Feng and Yahiko followed this Kaminobu and came inside. As soon as he arrived, the Shangshin knelt forward with a solemn face, and respectfully said, Hanzo-sama, the people have been brought. You guys go out and guard. Yes, my lord. The 4 elite shinobi, who had originally guarded the mountain pepperfish Hanzo in all directions, glanced at Ye Feng, and all walked out. And Yahiko was a little restless on his feet. At this time, Hanzo opened the screen. This is a cold-faced middle-aged man, wearing a gas mask, standing solemnly. In his hand was a slender scythe, the chain was extremely long, and at the other end was an axe, hanging from the ground. Are you the 4th-generation Hokage? Hanzo looked at Ye Feng high, so young, it really made Hanzo a little unexpected. As for Yahiko, Hanzo completely ignored it. Yikid was also observing the man known as a demigod. Faintly, Ye Feng felt something. Colorless and odorless poisonous gas. Ye Feng felt that his nerves were being stimulated by these poisonous gases. But Ye Feng didn't bother at all. Because his current power of the 6 realms is 15%, and the fusion degree of the character card between the 1,000-hand pillars is 100%, it is simply invincible. I came today to talk to you about the 5 shadows talks. Hanzo looked at Ye Feng, and there was an indescribable strangeness in his heart. His poisonous gas had been released for a while, but Ye Feng's appearance seemed to be completely unresponsive. What's going on? Poison gas is ineffective against him? Impossible. Hanzo did not show any thoughts, and said with a smile, the 4th generation of Hokage, you have also come to our Yuin village, and you have also seen the environment of our Yuin village. Our Yuin village is not suitable for holding the 5 shadows meeting, right? I think it's okay, I'm quite satisfied. The most important thing is that your Yuin village belongs to the junction of the 3 major ninja villages. You also understand, it's more convenient here. Hanzo frowned. The young man did not speak politely at all, so he said, but we are not welcome in Yuin village, yes? Ye Feng looked up at Hanzo and said, is that why you're not welcome? Hanzo stood up, looked at Ye Feng coldly, and said, yes, and how? For generations of Hokage, get out of here immediately. I don't know why. Hanzo is still unwilling to make a move. The young man in front of him was too eccentric. After all, Danzo also died at the hands of this young man, and the entire family was uprooted, and I heard that now the Shimura clan has been scattered and ranked among the various frontline squads. This 4th generation Hokage is a ruthless person. Ye Feng sighed and said, I'm sorry about that. Hanzo gives you a chance, let me see the strength of the demigod, I don't think I will be disappointed. Humph, 4th generation Hokage, since you want to find death, I will fulfill you. Although Hanzo said this, he felt that the scythe in his hand was a little heavy. But the murderous intent in his eyes suddenly appeared. Kill. Hanzo roared angrily. Protect Hanzo-sama. The 4 elites who went out to wait reacted quickly, drawing the long knife behind their backs almost at the same time and rushing in. At the same time, Hanzo also pounced on Yikide. Yahiko showed a look of horror and quickly said, 2 adults. At this time, Yahiko found that his legs were soft and poisoned. This? Before Yahiko could react, he was directly pushed away by Ye Feng and smashed directly on the wall. This? Yahiko immediately reacted, Ye Feng's palm saved his life. At this time, Ye Feng was already surrounded by Hanzo and his 4 elite shinobi guards. Hanzo's hands were sealed, psychic, pepperfish. With a bang of white smoke, a giant 4-legged fish tens of meters long appeared in front of Ye Feng. Rumble. The ground collapses directly. A huge underground pit has formed. Ye Feng, as well as Hanzo, and the 4 elite shinobi, all fell into the big pit. Yahiko, who was on the edge of the OB, stretched out his head and looked at the demigod Hanzo standing above the giant pepperfish below, and his heart shivered. The 4th generation of Hokage is miserable and offends Hanzo-sama. What should I do? Can't we talk properly? The pepperfish appeared at Hanzo's feet, and he looked at Ye Feng condescendingly, without saying much, his hands folded together. Secret art, poisonous fire extinguishment. The pepperfish at his feet spewed out toxins, combined with Hanzo's fire, forming a dark red flame full of toxins, which converged in the air, instantly forming a sea of fire, and instantly submerged the night maples. Naruto-sama. Yahiko was worried about night maple, but upon closer inspection, a barrier formed by rows of trees was erected in front of night maple. Mudun, tree boundary wall. Blisters appeared on the wall of the tree boundary and began to rot, and this poisonous fire extinguished was a secret technique combining fire plus pepperfish poison sac, which contained poison. Even the trees of Mudun are difficult to resist and rot in an instant. Hanzo couldn't help but sigh. Sure enough, there is the demeanor of the original Hokage. In such an environment, you can use Mudu, so that you leave with Yahiko now, this matter will be settled. Hanzo didn't want to let the night maple go, but looking at this huge tree boundary wall, his eyelids jumped, and Hanzo didn't want to form a mortal feud if he couldn't completely kill the other party. This is one of the reasons for Hanzo's rise. When Hanzo encounters an opponent, if he does not have the determination to kill, then he will let it go, and even give good words, such as Konoha Sanshinu. If you can kill, you must die, and you will never drag mud and water. So in the eyes of outsiders, Hanzo often spares the enemy, but in fact, this is the true face of Hanzo. A heroic character. Episode 103. Ye Feng looked at Hanzo quietly and said, since you say so, I will also give you a chance. Surrender to me, surrender to Konoha village, I can spare you from death. Yahiko watched from above, so frightened that cold sweat broke out. Heck, how can this 4th generation Hokage talk to Hanzo like this? He will die. Even Yahiko felt that Hanzo was stronger than Yokaide. After all, he had the name of a demigod. Hanzo was also angry, standing on top of the psychic beast pepperfish, and looked at Ye Feng coldly. Very good, since this is the case, I want to see what you can do to make me surrender. Saying that, the sky suddenly thundered, and the rain began to fall heavily. Under the fury of Hanzo, the psychic beast under his feet constantly provided Hanzo with a steady stream of chakra, and now Hanzo's burst of momentum is one of the best among shadow-level powerhouses. Ye Feng was a little surprised. This amount of chakra is about to catch up with the human pillar force. Hanzo's momentum became stronger and stronger, and the entire ground began to tremble slightly under his influence. A slight vibration spread out from the Hanzo tower. The high-level people in the center were surprised. Here's what's going on. Ha! In an instant, Hanzo's momentum climbed to the peak, and the whole figure flashed, and suddenly appeared in front of Ye Feng. Instantaneous technique. This is Hanzo's most famous move. Even in the face of danger, you can avoid it. It is also a divine skill of chasing and killing people. Most importantly, his instantaneous technique was instantaneous with the pepperfish psychic beast. I saw Hanzo raise his hand, and the scythe in his hand flashed terrifying cold in the air. Between heaven and earth, it seemed as if it had suddenly stopped, and Yahiko, who was lying on the ground above, looked wide-eyed, his heart bristled, and his whole body was shocked to the point that he could not move. This was Hanzo's all-out blow at this time. Very scary. Yahiko felt invincible. If this knife slashes at himself, I am afraid that in the next second, he will die. Time and space are blocked, and this feeling is very uncomfortable. Maybe only a special ninja like Nagato can crack it, right? This is what Yahiko thinks now. The four elites who are half hiding behind the pepperfish are also full of admiration. They are all sighing that those who are not here will not experience how powerful Hanzo-sama is. When Hanzo-sama really struck, it was so terrifying, and the killing intent that permeated the air was simply difficult to resist. You can smash them in an instant. Although this move will instantly drain all of Hanzo-sama's chakras, no one can resist this move. Even the original 3 generations of Hokage, known as the ninjutsu doctor, Ape Flying Sun Slash, will be seriously injured when facing a move. Not to mention the young 4th generation in front of you. For generations Hokage, if you can catch this knife from me, I can talk to you. I saw the sickle in Hanzo's hand, wrapped around the pepperfish poison and fire chakra, and the poisonous fire cut through the sky. With this knife, the space and time around Ye Feng seemed to be frozen. Fall with a bang. With this knife, everyone felt that Ye Feng had nowhere to escape. The 4th generation of Hokage is miserable. The 4th generation of Hokage will die. The 4th generation of Hokage will be seriously injured if he does not die. After defeating the 4th generation of Hokage, our Ewing village will definitely be famous in the ninja realm. Even if the pepperfish Hanzo hides himself, he is very satisfied with himself at the moment of shooting. This move condensed his lifelong spirit. Surpassed all his previous tricks. He felt that he had risen to another level. Even if the 6 Dao Immortals are reborn, I'm afraid they will have to retreat. This is what Hanzo thinks now. However, in the next second, everyone was stunned. I saw that Ye Feng instantly turned into immortal mode, his eyes showed red stripes, and at the same time there was a red circle ring on his forehead, and his pupils turned golden. The momentum on his body instantly overwhelmed Hanzo the pepperfish. The time and space that had been sealed off around it were shattered in an instant. The pepperfish was half hidden in the air, and the confident smile suddenly stiffened. I saw Ye Feng's whole body erupt with purple gold chakra, forming a purple gold chakra cloak around his body, holding a kunai in his right hand, blocking Hanzo's sickle of the pepperfish. Bang! A bang! The terrifying shockwave, directly centered on the two of them, spread out to the surroundings. Ugh! The 4 elite shinobu exclaimed, and all of them crashed into the steel wall and directly embedded in it. Burst! These 4 elites were forbearing, and they were seriously injured in an instant. Yahiko above was also directly washed away. Even Hanzo had a horrified look in his eyes, and suddenly took 2 steps back, and blood flowed out of the edge of the gas mask. You. Hanzo was terrified. In his life, the proudest blow was actually blocked by the other party's bitter nothing? What the hell is this? Such a strength is probably more than 10 times stronger than the young 3-generation Hokage Ape Flying Sun, right? In an instant, all of Hanzo's confidence and pride were destroyed. And Yahiko, who was hanging on the wall, was even more panicked. The 4th generation of Hokage is so young, more powerful than Hanzo-sama? Ye Feng looked at Hanzo with a smile and said, "Your move, I took it, then it's my turn, take my move, I can spare you not to die." Saying that, the purple gold chakra on Ye Feng's body suddenly skyrocketed. Hanzo suddenly felt like a small boat in the middle of a storm, drowning in the waves at any time. He sweated coldly and couldn't help but say, this I am willing to. Ye Feng interrupted Hanzo and said, "Come and take it." As soon as the words fell, Ye Feng had already moved. It was in an instant that Hanzo, who was famous for his instantaneous skills, could not see Ye Feng's movements clearly. This? Monster power all your might. Ye Feng's trick has no name. It is to precisely control chakra, concentrate chakra on the whole body, so that the whole body is covered with purple gold chakra, and when slapped out with one palm, it can burst out powerful air flow in the air, instantly breaking through the steel wall. I saw that Ye Feng staggered the pepperfish Hanzo, and then the pepperfish Hanzo's eyes widened, and he flew out directly upside down. While in the air, Hanzo is already in the air. Bang! Whole body explosion. The body exploded into countless pieces. Blood splattered. The psychic beast pepperfish screamed miserably, and directly retracted his own ceiling space. This human being in front of him was too terrifying, it was simply not a person. The four elites who were printed on the wall Shinobu, their eyes widened, and they looked at the head of Hanzo of the pepperfish in horror, rolling down in front of them, dead and blind. Hanzo-sama. The poisonous sac in Hanzo's body also ruptured, and the poison emanated, and the faces of these four elites changed drastically, and they were instantly poisoned. Yahiko swallowed his spit, took the lead to return to his senses, and hurriedly retreated. There was still some disbelief in his tone. Hanzo-sama. He's dead? He looked at Ye Feng's back, and his heart was full of complicated expressions. The fourth generation of Hokage is too strong, it is really the strength of legendary characters. Hanzo died like this, and the future of Yuin village may have an immeasurable impact. The death of Hanzo the pepperfish, in one day, shocked the entire ninja world. Especially Yuin village, it suddenly became chaotic. Everyone was stunned, but they didn't expect that the pepperfish, known as a demigod, was Hanzo dead, and it died in the hands of the fourth generation of Hokage Ye Feng. Now the lives of the people in Ye Feng's hands are numerous, 3 generations of Water Shadow, Uchiha Spot, plus the current demigod Hanzo. Some people even suspect that the mysterious disappearance of the 3 generations of Wind Shadows is also related to Ye Feng. Ye Feng said that he was also innocent. Everyone didn't expect that Ye Feng would kill so boldly, saying that if he went to Yuin village, he would go to Yuin village, and he would directly kill Hanzo. In any case, Hanzo's death has become a fact. And the name of Ye Feng has further become an existence that everyone in the ninja world fears. Konoha village is also famous, and its status as the first ninja village in the ninja world is also stable and solid. Night Maple returned, and the news also came back to Konoha village. Not only Sarutobi and Uzumaki Mido, but also the heads of the major families, were amazed. Ape Flying Sun Chopper once again felt that he was right to retreat bravely, and if he retreated a little later, I was afraid that he would not be able to save time. Yokaide, a young man less than 20 years old, is afraid that he will lead Konoha to glory again, just like the original Hokage-sama. Thinking of this, Ape Flying Sun Chopper once again felt the gap between people, which was simply heaven and earth. Compared to his 2 sons, Ye Feng is much stronger. The fall of the demigod marks the rise of the 4th generation of Hokage Night Maple. After Yuin village lost its demigod, it instantly entered civil strife. Yuin village, which could still rely on Hanzo's powerful prestige and personal strength to combine, was instantly torn apart. Not long after Ye Feng left the Yuin village, Yenin village launched a blitzkrieg, and tens of thousands of Yenin village ninjas occupied the leaderless Yuin village in one fell swoop. The divided Yuin village was instantly dominated. I heard that Wayne village also killed many ninjas of Yuin village. Yuin village instantly became a subsidiary ninja village of Wayne village. As soon as Yokaide returned to Konoha village, he received news from the Dark Ninja. Yenin village captured Yuin village. This Yenin village is too thief, did he pick my peaches? Ye Feng looked at the Dark Ninja in front of him with dissatisfaction. It was the eldest son of Sarutobi Hinata, Saruta by gate. Ape Phoebeman suddenly broke out in a cold sweat, lowered his head, and thought to himself, the 4th generation of adults, I didn't do it, don't kill me. Ye Feng thought for a while and said, you take a squad and go directly to Yuin village, and tell the commander of Yenin village that when I left, I had already put Yuin village within the protection range of our Konoha village, and told them to hand over Yuin village, otherwise, don't blame me for directly killing Yenin village. Ape Flying Guard's eyelids jumped. Ye Feng told himself to do such a thing, not to die himself. How can he also be the son of the 3rd generation of Hokage? Ye Feng don't target himself like this. If he took the squad and went to Yuin village to say this to the commander of Yenin village, he would definitely not be able to leave Yuin village. At the beginning, the Yuin village mission, led by Uchiha Fugaku, was directly seriously injured, and now he is still sleeping in the hospital. Thinking of this, the Ape Flying Guard suddenly shivered. But in the end, the Ape Flying Guard still did not refuse. Because he didn't want to use privileges to refuse because he was a 3rd generation son, he didn't want to lose the face of their Ape Flying family. Since it was arranged by Ye Feng, then be careful yourself, even if you come back seriously injured like Uchiha Fugaku. In fact, Ye Feng didn't think so much, just casually named names. After all, there are not many people in Konoha village now, some have gone to the side of Shain village, some have gone to Yunin village, and some have gone to the Wuin village, and now the senior talents of Konoha village are not enough. So now that Konoha village has entered a stage of great development, there is a bit of a shortage of talents. In this way, the ape flying guard shivered and led the team to Yuin village. When the ape flying guard gate left, the ape flying Sun Chop and the ape flying Biwa Lake did not know the task of the ape flying guard gate. After all, the ape flying Sun Chop has now retired to the front line. For the mission news, it is still half a beat slower. Moreover, Ye Feng's tasks are often released on the spot and executed on the spot. Therefore, ape flying Biwako was worried that it was too late to stop ape flying guard. For this reason, ape flying Biwa Lake was very dissatisfied. Is it that Ye Feng deliberately targeted our ape flying clan? You old man, can't you give Ye Feng a little instruction? Ape Fei re-smoked a cigarette, and his eyes suddenly widened. What instructions to Ye Feng? We ape flying clan have never done such a privileged thing, and if you do this, you will lose the face of our ape flying clan. What ape flying face? This mission is so dangerous. What if something happens to the guard? Ape Fei re-glanced at ape Fei Biwa Lake coldly, and said, it's really long hair and short insight. You know what? Don't be a ninja if you are afraid of death. This time is a danger for Baemon and an opportunity at the same time. If he returns from the mission, this battle merit is enough for him to gain a foothold in Konoha and become a superior shinobi, so that he will not fall into the reputation of our ape flying clan. Ape flying Biwa Lake was suddenly unhappy. You dead old man, what kind of reputation? I don't want fame, I want my son to be safe. Humph, I don't see it. Women don't understand men, so cringe. Don't dare to contact danger for a lifetime. Be a lower patience, middle patience, who can afford it? Ape flying Sun Chopper and ape flying Lake Biwa suddenly quarreled. At this time, their son, ape flying guard, had already led the team to Yuin village. On the outskirts of Yuin village, it has been stopped by Yenin village. Sarutobi looked at the mighty Awain village ninja, and his eyelids jumped. But he still gritted his teeth and said, we are the ninja of Konoha village, and we came here specially to meet the commander-in-chief of your Awain village and Yuin village on the order of the 4th generation of Hokage, Lord Yokaide. The leader guarding here is the upper shinobi of Awain village, and after glancing at the ape-flying guard, he was still a medium shinobi, and immediately laughed and said, get out. You are a small character in the middle of the ninja. What qualifications do you have to see our commander-in-chief? Go back and ask you Hokage to come over in person. The ape-flying guard was in a cold sweat, and the members of the squad behind were also middle and lower patients, and they were even more frightened and trembling, and the momentum of upper patients was not something that ordinary people could withstand. Just as the ape-flying guard was about to retreat and turn back, in his squad, a guy in a green tights with a strange hairstyle stood up. Matt Day. After the last battle, Mater Dai went from 10,000 years to become a middle patience. He gritted his teeth and said, get out of here. This is the order of our 4th generation Hokage-sama. Your Awain village invaded Yuin village without our Konoha's consent, and now you dare not to put our Konoha village in your eyes. Do you want war? Saying that, Mater Dai directly opened the 3 doors. The green chakra of the whole body wrapped the whole body, and the momentum that erupted suddenly overwhelmed the upper shinobu on the opposite side. Everyone's faces changed. Especially the squad on Konoha's side, everyone was so scared that their legs went soft. Is there something wrong with this Mater Dai? To mess with the people of Yenin village like this? This will kill us. Many people think this way in their hearts. And the ape-flying guard who led the squad was guilty in his heart. Mater Dai is also a Zongman, and his family is far inferior to his ape-flying clan, but the spirit he shows now is more like the wealthy family of Konoha village. Ape Febe was ashamed, and also stood up and said loudly, you treat our mission from Konoha village like this. Do you not put us Konoha in your eyes, or do you not put our 4th generation Hokage in your eyes? I advise you to report this matter to your commander-in-chief, otherwise, if something happens, you can't afford it. If there is any conflict, you will kill your entire family, you will kill the entire Yenin village. Shangnan was suddenly furious, and chakra burst out instantly. But Mater Dai opened the 3 doors, and the momentum was also not weak. Ape Flying Guard Gate is also chakra outbreak. The ninjas on this side of Awain village all surrounded them, 1,000 of them. Ape Febe's eyelids jumped, but he had already given his life away. Come on. I died today, and all of you Yenin village will be buried with me tomorrow. Mater Dai nodded and said, yes, we are here with the order of the 4th generation of Hokage Night Maple. Don't mistake yourself. The upper shinobu of Yenin village's eyelids jumped, took a deep breath, and stopped the people behind him and said, you guys go back, don't mess around. After speaking, he glanced coldly at the ape-flying guard gate and Matt Dai, and walked in. He really didn't dare to move, and if something really went wrong, he really couldn't afford it. When this Awain Murakami shinobu came to the operational headquarters of Yenin village and met with the commander-in-chief Les was slightly stunned, and suddenly showed an angry look. Les is the son of the 3rd generation of Tokage Inoki, and the person with the highest voice of the 4th generation of Tokage. This Blitzkrieg, the commander-in-chief of operations, is the Les. Konoha's 2 middle ninja really said that? Yes, Lord Les. Les took a deep breath and said, bring them in, I would like to hear what the fourth generation of Hokage said. Yuin village is their territory? Amusing. Soon, the small team of Konoha's mission was brought to the commander-in-chief, Les. You came on the orders of the fourth generation of Hokage? Is there no one left in Konoha village, send a waste like you to be in shinobi? Except for Ape Flying Guard and Mater Day, everyone else was shocked by the terrifying momentum of the Les to tremble. Sarutobi took a deep breath and said, Naruto-sama thinks that a few of us are enough. Les took a deep look at the Ape Flying Guard and said, oh, Nakanin, you are very courageous, have you thought that you yourself will die? For a moment, Sarutobai's mind stopped thinking, and his eyes showed a look of horror. This is the artifact level killing intent. A middle ninja like Ape Flying Guard, even if his strength reaches the upper ninja level, there is still no possibility of resistance. However, Sarutobi still overcame his fear, his lips were bitten and bloodied, and he said viciously, it doesn't matter if I die, I just know that Naruto-sama ordered us to bring a message to you. After Lord Hokage killed the rebel thief Hanzo, when he left, he had already placed Yuin village within the protection area of our Konoha village. Your Yenin village originally attacked Yuin village, it is illegal. Hand over Wayne village, otherwise, don't blame us Hokage-sama for directly killing a Wayne village. Les was suddenly furious, presumptuous. As soon as the words fell, the faces of everyone in Konoha village changed drastically, and they were directly shocked by the sudden eruption of the Les, fell to the ground, and spewed out blood. But Sarutobi wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said, Lord Commander-in-Chief, this is our Hokage-sama's original words, please don't mistake yourself. Yuin village, the place where our Hokage-sama appointed the 5 Kages to talk, is not a place where your Wayne village can touch. If there is any dissatisfaction, you can reflect with us Hokage-sama at that time. Huangtu smiled and said, well, it seems that your Konoha village wants war. Ape Flying Guard and Mater Day both stood up, chakra burst, they were ready to die. Suddenly, the momentum on the Les body was released, and he said with a smile, you too, I appreciate it very much, go back and tell you about the controversy of the Hokage and Yuin village, and wait until after the 5 Shadows talks. Since you Hokage have decided to hold the 5 Kage talks here, we respect Hokage's meaning. In this way, Les released Ape Flying Guard and Mater Day. Ape Flying Guard and Mater Day were very surprised, they actually went back alive? The rest of the squad was so happy that they cried. The taste of the rest of my life after the disaster is really too difficult to speak. On the side of the Yenin village combat headquarters, all the elites looked at the Les very angrily. Lord Les, just let Konoha village step on our Wayne village like this? Lord Les, your act of being so afraid of Konoha and the Hokage is simply losing the face of our Wayne village. Les looked at everyone coldly and said, stupid, that's why I'm the commander-in-chief, and you're just elite shinobi. I want Konoha to be careless, I want Hokage to be careless, to let Hokage come to Yuin village and enter the bureau we set up. Hokage is too strong, and Hanzo is not his opponent. So this time our Yenin village is not enough, and we must unite with the other 3 hidden villages. I don't believe it, the 4 great ninja villages united, and they can't deal with a single Konoha? Even if we kill Night Maple 4, more than 100,000 ninjas in our 4 major ninja villages, can't we still pile up a Night Maple to die? Back then, as strong as 1,000 hand pillars, they all had to live in peace with us. Now, Ye Feng is so arrogant, it is the way to take death, and kill himself. Episode 104, Sarutobi and Mater Day return to Konoha and become Konoha's heroes. Naka Shinobu led the team, and actually negotiated things with the commander-in-chief of Yenin village, and returned safely. Everyone in Konoha village greatly admired Sarutobi and Mater Day, and at the same time admired Yaki's arrangement even more. Lord Hokage is nearby. Under the coercion of Lord Hokage, those instigators in Wayne village don't dare to do anything to Baemon and Mater Day. Yes, Lord Hokage's prestige is far from the town, and Wayne village doesn't dare to move us at all. Even the ninjas who were traveling with Sarutobi and Mater Day agreed with this statement. Ape Flying Sun slashed the family, and Ape Flying Sun snorted and said, see no, you see if the Baemon has returned safely, this time in the name of Zongnan, I met the son of the 3 generations of Tokage, Les, such a seniority, and soon rose to the rank of Shangnan. Lake Biwa glared at the Ape Flying Sun chop and did not speak. At the ninja school, Little Kai gave Little Kakashi a thumbs up and said, my dad is back victorious. Little Kakashi rolled his eyes and said, what is this? My father is still the leader of the village to oversee the village. The 2 little children are comparing their fathers to each other. At this time, Sarutobi and Mater Day, with their squad, were in the Hokage office, reporting to Night Maple about the situation in Yuin village. Ye Feng nodded and said, you guys are indeed very courageous and did a good job without losing the face of our Konoha village. At this time, people outside came in with 2 vests. Ye Feng looked at Sarutobi and Mater Day and said, since you have completed this mission well, after discussion, we have decided to give you the promotion of Shangnan. As soon as these words came out, Sarutobi and Mater Day's eyes suddenly lit up, Their faces were full of emotion and gratitude, and quickly said, "Thank you Naruto-sama, I will definitely bow down for Naruto-sama and Konoha." Ye Feng smiled and continued to process the documents. The date of the Five Shadows talks was set for 5 days later. At this time, the idea of a Wayne village is very beautiful, or the idea of less is very beautiful. I feel that now Konoha is too arrogant and domineering, and Ye Feng is too arrogant and domineering, and I feel that I can unite with the other 3 major ninja villages to deal with Ye Feng with 4 enemies and 1. However, this proposal was directly opposed by Inoki. Les was very puzzled by his father's opposition. "Father, is it wrong for me to do this?" Inoki shook his head helplessly and said, "You don't understand, unite the 4 major ninja villages, this project is too big, it is impossible to be completely secret. In this world, there are always people who want to be slaves. In case the news leaks, then our Yenin village, and even the entire plan, will be a disaster." Seeing that Inoki said so seriously, Les still said in disbelief, "Father, did you say it so seriously?" Inoki looked at the Les and said, "It's that you haven't seen it with your own eyes. The difference between a real strong person and an ordinary upper ninja is 10 times, or even 100 times, than the difference between the lower ninja and the upper ninja." Saying that, Inoki remembered when he was young, when he faced Uchiha, the memory of that time, he remembered it vividly, and he will never forget it for the rest of his life. Before he made a move, Inoki felt like he was going to die. This is the horror of the top powerhouse. Of course, Inoki felt that with his current strength, facing Uchiha Madara would not be as humiliating as he was back then, but he was not sure. And the 4th generation of Hokage Night Maple in Konoha village, the name of fierceness, has been circulated. 3 generations of Mizukage, Uchiha Madara, and demigod Hanzo all died at his hands. With a wooden dun like the original Hokage thousand-hand pillar, he can use the strongest immortal Femu Duan, really thousands of hands. Even Inoki saw that little bit of distance with his own eyes. One clue after another, Inoki can basically confirm that Ye Feng is the same level of super top powerhouse as the thousand-hand pillar of the year, and the existence of the super shadow level. Even if they are shadow level powerhouses, they are not as good as each other. Be at least 1 notch stronger. Such a grade of super top powerhouses is not piled up with the number of people. You're still too young. The 5 Kages meeting, just follow the side of Konoha village, don't mess around during this time, you come back for the time being. During the meeting, you came to serve as my guard. This is the tradition of the 5 great ninja villages. When you see Ye Feng, you will know the difference between you. Huang Tu snorted and said, "Father, you can't trust me." As soon as he heard that he was going to be transferred back, Les was dissatisfied. Inoki looked at the Les. For his son, he knew very well that if he didn't recall the Les to his side, maybe he might really offend Ye Feng again. "During this time, you follow me, there is no other choice." At this time, Ye Feng was in a daze in the office. Suddenly remembered, he also had 2 S-class psychic inheritances, namely Miamu Mountain and Longdi Cave. Then there are 2 S-class books, one is the copy of the 2nd generation Hokage Senju after the break, and the other is the copy of Sanshin vs Hanzo obtained not long ago. Miamu Mountain and Longdi Cave. The big totem immortal of Miamu Mountain, but the big man who taught the 6 immortal arts, if he enters now, it is still a little dangerous, at least wait until the power of the 6 paths is 100% fused. The situation in Longdi Cave is similar, when you can't figure out the other party's situation, it's better to be careful. In case the totem immortal and the white snake immortal are really fierce, it will not be good to go in and capsize now. After all, he is not the aborigine of this world, and the big totem immortal is likely to see his origin. After all, it is the big guy who dreams all day and predicts the future. After thinking about it, Ye Feng still decided to try 2 S-class dungeons first. See what rewards will be given after getting through 2 S-grade books. Sanshin vs Hanzo? Not long ago, Hanzo was killed, and Ye Feng is not interested in this copy now. Naruto was interested in the copy of the death of the 2nd Hokage Senjuma that only had a few words. How strong is the Thousand Hands Gate, and why was it killed by the Golden Horn and Silver Horn? If not killed by them, at least seriously injured. This battle is full of doubts. Ding, whether to enter the S copy, the 2nd generation of the Will of Fire defense, yes. Ye Feng's consciousness was immediately pulled into the illusion of 30 years ago. At that time, it was the period of World War I, and the truce ceremony between Konoha village and Yunin village was held in Yunin village. In order to show respect, Senju and his 5 guards came to Yunin village to participate in the truce ceremony. The 5 guards at this time were none other than Sarutobi Hinata, Shimura Danzo, Koharu Shu, Uchiha Kagami, and Mito Menyen. These 5 people. Ye Feng found that when he entered this S-class copy, he did not enter by himself, but as one of the 5 guards. Moreover, all of Ye Feng's current abilities cannot be brought into this copy, but inherit the lore that he substituted into. This made Night Wind feel a little difficult, and looked at these 5 people. Ye Kid directly chose Uchiha Mirror. Because Ye Feng is not interested in Mito Minyan, Sleeping Koharu, and Shimura Danzo, Ye Feng is not interested at all. Ape Flying Sun Chopper is also not much interested. What interests Yokai the most is that it is basically not described in the Naruto Shoji. The Uchiha clan has the broadest mind and has extensive communication with the other families throughout Konoha. Nightwind brought himself into the character of Uchiha Jin, and all the experience, and knowledge about Uchiha sword appeared in that mind. Yokai immediately knew who the most mysterious Uchiha Kagami in the history of Hokage was. To put it simply, the character of Uchiha Mirror is similar to Uchiha Water Stop, and even the ability is similar. The art of instantaneous body is very strong, and the illusion of riding wheel eyes is also very strong, no wonder the two are related. Accompanied by the fifth group of guards, Senju came to the armistice ceremony. Senjuma, as the Hokage and the second-generation Thunder Kage of Konoha village, walked together to the high platform of the armistice ceremony. Below are all the high-ranking family members of Yunin village, all watching. The second-generation Hokage and the second-generation Thunder Shadow, the two shook hands on the high platform. At this historic moment, Ye Feng suddenly felt a sense of foreboding. At the moment when the two shook hands, a huge Ye Feng launched in the middle of the sudden high platform, and suddenly his eyes widened. He immediately opened the kaleidoscope riding wheel eye and saw two figures flashing by. Instantly appeared in front of the two shadows. It's the Golden Horn and the Silver Horn. At this time, Uchiha Kagami, that is, Ye Feng, rushed directly up, and at the same time, Ape Flying Sun Chopper rushed up almost at the same time, but was stopped by the upper shinobi of the Golden Horn Silver Horn army. The sudden sneak attack of the two people of Golden Horn and Silver Horn was definitely not a sneak attack by the two of them alone, but something that some high-level officials of Yunin village could only do together. Otherwise, with this Golden Horn and Silver Horn alone, it would be impossible to kill the second-generation Thunder Shadow, and they could also seriously injure the Thousand-Handed. At the moment when the high platform exploded, the Thousand Hands suddenly retreated sharply and rushed towards the five-person escort. But at this time, the Silver Horn stopped in front of the Thousand Hands. The second-generation Thunder Shadow side is facing the half-tailed beastly Golden Horn. In the blink of an eye, unfolded a fierce battle. Yikid opened the kaleidoscope chakra eye and killed the upper shinobu in front of him. The battle between the two shadows against the Golden Horn and Silver Horn is at its most intense. Under Ye Feng's kaleidoscopic riding wheel eyes, he clearly saw that the second-generation Liang suddenly coughed, spewed out a mouthful of blood, and his face changed greatly. At the moment of coughing, the half-tailed beastly Golden Horn injured the chest of the second-generation Thunder Shadow, and the wound was very deep. Of course, this did not directly incapacitate the second-generation Thunder Shadow, but it was enough to seriously injure. That's it, followed by a chain of reactions. Silver Horn seems to be fighting fiercely with Thousand Hands, but in fact, his attention is on the second-generation Thunder Shadow. Just when the second-generation Thunder Shadow was injured, Silver Horn suddenly turned around and hit the second-generation Thunder Shadow with the Golden Horn. Thousand Hands did not go to save the second generation of Thunder Shadow, but retreated. He didn't know what the situation was, and now that he found the opportunity to break through, he naturally wouldn't pay attention to the second-generation Thunder Shadow. At the moment when the Thousand Hands suddenly retreated, the Golden Horn and the influence brought the second-generation Thunder Shadow into the dead land. Run! Senjuma and the five-man escort gathered and immediately left the armistice meeting. Under such circumstances, the center of gravity of the attack of the Golden Horn and Silver Horn is in the second-generation Thunder Shadow, and only part of it can help but block the Thousand Hands. However, he was still led by a Thousand Hands and a five-person escort and broke out. And during the breakout process, Senjuma was very surprised by Ye Feng's performance, and when he escaped from the country of thunder, Senju couldn't help but praise, "Uchiha Kagami, you've grown." As soon as these words came out, everyone else looked at them and were very surprised. Then Ye Feng followed them and began the chase battle between the Golden Horn and Silver Horn. I have to say that Ye Feng followed the Thousand Hands chestnut, and along the way found that the Thousand Hands chestnut was actually really very strong. If it is said that the Thousand Hand pillar belongs to the kind that breaks the clever with force, then first of all, the Thousand Hand pillar is the opposite style, breaking the force with ingenuity. It is equivalent to an enhanced version of the Ape Flying Sun Slash, which has developed countless S-level forbidden arts, and will use 5 types of escape techniques. Basically all ninjutsu use supernatural transformation. In the breakthrough battle along the way, with himself and a 5-person squad, the Golden Horn and Silver Horn troops of thousands of people were like walking dogs. However, the Golden Horn Silver Horn solved the second-generation Thunder Shadow here, and then immediately turned around and directly entered the Land of Fire, intercepting and surrounding the Senju in the Forest of Death. Even they have no way to catch up with Senjuma and the escort. But quite simply, they concluded that Senjuma was going back to Konoha village, so they were here in the Forest of Death, waiting for the rabbit. So, the Senjuma and the Golden Horn and Silver Horn troops faced each other. At this time, a classic scene appeared. Xiaojun said that at this time, he needed someone to come out of the palace. In fact, Ye Feng felt that it was more strange, because among these 5 troops, sleeping Xiaojun was the weakest one. If he wanted to come out of the palace, wouldn't it be the most likely to be sleeping Xiaojun? Why did sleeping Xiaojun raise this question? Ye Feng was trying to see the reactions of these people, and he did not speak. At this time, seeing Tuanzong showing a hesitant look, at the same time, Ape Flying Sun Chopper stood up, without hesitation. Teacher, let me come to the palace, I am the strongest person here. History has not changed at all. Ye Feng's expression as he looked at the young ape flying into the sun did not look like there was a fake. I have to say that the ape flying sun chop is full of personality charm at this time. The strength is originally the highest among the 5 guards, and it is the first to stand up without hesitation, willing to sacrifice himself and achieve others. Such a spirit is true, if 1,000 hands do not choose him, no one else can choose. But Qianzhou smiled and said, this time the queen of the palace still let me come. As soon as this was said, everyone was surprised. Teacher, how can you let your queen empress if you are Hokage? Yes, the teacher asked me to come to the queen. The teacher asked me to come, I am the strongest person. Qianzhou looked at everyone with relief and said, I'm afraid you won't be able to last long after you come to the temple, and it won't work at all, so let me come. Their target is on me, you 5 can completely break through, they want to take me, not so easy. Teacher, I am not so weak, believe me, you go quickly. If I don't come back, then the position of the 3rd generation of Hokage will be passed, too. Senju hesitated, glanced at Ye Kid or passed the position to Ape Flying Sun Chopper. In this way, the small queue of 5 people was about to say goodbye to the 1,000 hands, but at this time, Ye Feng wanted to stay. Teacher, I'm going to stay and help you, you 4 go first, the teacher is right, you are hope. However, Uchiha Kagami did not leave, and when the others saw this, they were immediately unwilling to leave. The 5-person squad all remained. Senju was so angry that he couldn't do it. Uchiha Kagami, hurry up. If you don't leave, I'll make a move. Ye Feng didn't pay attention to it at all. Anyway, it's all copies, who is afraid of whom? I want to see what this copy will be done after this change in history. Soon, the Golden Horn and Silver Horn troops surrounded them, and thousands of ninjas, Koharu and Mizuto Menyen regretted it when they saw it, but it was too late. The 1,000 hands still have to lead the Golden Horn and Silver Horn to give the 5-person squad a chance to break through immediately. Ye Feng suddenly saw a pair of eyes that were also blood-colored chakra eyes. Uchiha Madara? Ye Kid finally understood why Senju was seriously injured and killed by the Golden Horn Silver Horn. It turned out that Uchiha was doing something again. After suspended animation, Uchiha Madara reappeared, framed Senju to death. This is the truth of history. The moment Ye Kid saw Uchiha, he was already defeated. Because the Uchiha spot at this time is the Uchiha spot in the prime of life. Ye Kid's use of Uchiha Mirror's body is not Uchiha's opponent at all. After fighting for less than 5 minutes, Kid hung up in the copy, and before hanging up, he saw that the Golden Horn and the Silver Horn were directly blown up by the Senjuma and almost hung up. Of course, the Senjukuma side also paid a very huge price, and fled into the forest of death with the help of the guards. The 1,000 Hands Gate is not dead. Has the result of the history of the copy been reversed? Ye Feng just had this thought in his heart, his eyes were black, and he had returned to reality. Exit the replica. Uchiha Kagami was killed by Uchiha Madara. Ye Feng's first S-class trip ended like this. That's too much. Ye Feng also wanted to give it a try, and was told by the system that S-level copies could only enter once a day. And this time to enter the S-class book, there is also a reward. Ding, the host completes the S-Quest 1,000 Hands Fire will guard battle. 1% historical twist, 1% rewarding character card fusion between 1,000 hands. Ye Feng was speechless. Why is there only 1% historical twist? Ding, the host this 1% is a comfort point. In fact, this copy trip, Senjuma was still attacked in the armistice ceremony, still intercepted in the forest of death, still seriously injured by the Golden Horn and Silver Horn, still sent back to Konoha by the escort, the Uchiha mirror you controlled, still dead, basically without any historical twist and deviation. Evaluation, poor. Ye Feng helpless, this first S-class copy, I just get used to it, the next copy, I will definitely twist you to obey. And that's it, today's S-copy tour, that's over. Ye Feng looked at the time, was he ready to leave work? Ding, based on the current situation of the host, give 2 choices. Option 1, work overtime, never stop, work until 12 o'clock in the evening. Rewards, random character card fusion plus 10%, Jiushernai good feeling minus 10. Option 2, 9 nights, clock in and leave work, never work overtime, all he gives. Rewards, random character card fusion plus 50%, Uchiha Mikoto favorites plus 10. Ye Feng immediately stood up. The people next to them looked at Ye Feng. Ye Feng said, haha, everyone is off work, I never work overtime. Saying that, Ye Feng took the lead in opening the door and walked out. The other staff members were immediately dumbfounded when they saw Ye Feng leave like this. Never work overtime? In the past few days, Ye Feng has worked overtime every night. Could it be that they were all shadow doppelgangers the other day? Ye Feng walked out of the Hokage building at this time, and the setting sun was still slowly sinking. Ding, congratulations to the host for completing option 2, 9 night 5, clocking in and leaving work, never working overtime, Ollie gives. Get rewards, random character card fusion, plus 50%, Uchiha Makoto liking plus 10, ding, congratulations to the host Uchiha spot character card fusion 100% full value, ding, it has been detected that the host has a 100% fusion degree 1000 hand pillar character card and a 100% fusion degree Uchiha spot character card, and has the power of 6 paths, which can synthesize the blood succession limit reincarnation eye, whether it is synthesized, reincarnation eyes? The Eye of Reincarnation is one of the 3 major pupil techniques of Hokage, and is known as the most sublime pupil power of controlling the Eye of Life and Death. Originated from the Divine Tree Chakra fruit. The owner of the Eye of Reincarnation controls Yin and Yang, has at least 6 changes in the nature of chakra, and has extraordinary abilities, which can be either a god of creation with the ability to create the world or a god of destruction with the ability to destroy the world. Ye Feng's eye suddenly lit up, synthesis. Suddenly, Ye Feng felt a change in the picture in front of him, and he had arrived in the virtual illusion space as an observer. Look down on the whole world yourself. Heaven and earth were green, and suddenly, a terrifying roar filled the entire heaven and earth. Suddenly, the earth was torn, the wind was fierce, and the sky and the earth were dark. Suddenly, it became the end of the world. Ye Feng looked at the 10 tails in front of him and was slightly stunned. I saw an old man in a white robe with a string of fiery red go jade hanging around his neck, holding 6 tin rods in his hand, and 9 black seeking jades suspended behind his back. It was the 6 Tao Immortals. His eyes are a circle of lines from the inside out. Reincarnation eye. Above his forehead, there is also a red reincarnation eye. 3 reincarnation eyes, open at the same time. With his roar, the 6 tin rods in his hand were raised high, and the 9 Tao jades behind him shot out at the same time, forming a straight line in the air, and instantly smashed into the 10 tails that were even bigger than the peak. Bang! A bang! Ye Feng returned to the real world, he opened his eyes, from the inside out, circle after circle. Reincarnation eye. Ye Feng suddenly felt that his body had undergone a huge change. Originally Ye Feng could use the 5 major chakras, but now after having the Eye of Reincarnation, it was easier to use the power of the 6 paths. At the same time, in his mind, he got all the knowledge about ninjutsu, immortal art and physical arts related to the Eye of Reincarnation. This pair of reincarnation eyes is only 20% open now, because the power of the 6 paths is only fused by 20%, even so, it is already all the ninjutsu that can use the kaleidoscope riding wheel eye, and all of them are enhanced versions. 6 Tao Shinra, Heavenly Sign. 6 Tao, Vientian, Heavenly Introduction. 6 Ways Heavenly Hindrance, Shocking Star. 6 Ways Earth Explosion Stars. Complete Body Susanoo. Psychic Outer Path, Golem. Ceiling. Reincarnation Eye Coercion. Episode 105. Ye Feng's eyes opened and closed, and he found that he could not put away the eyes of reincarnation. Ye Feng cancelled the use of the Uchiha spot character card, but found that his eyes were still reincarnation eyes. System, what the hell is going on? The Eye of Reincarnation is more advanced than the Eye of the Riding Wheel. Why can the Eye of the Riding Wheel be closed freely, but the Eye of Reincarnation cannot be closed? In fact, it is precisely because it is more advanced that it cannot be switched. The Sharingan is that people in the Uchiha family produce special chakra stimulation eyes because of huge emotions such as sadness, which will temporarily change the Sharingan, that is to say, when it is used, the chakra stimulation will change, and when it is not used, there will be no change without chakra. Therefore, the riding wheel eye can be put away freely, and you can use it if you want to. And the ability of the Eye of Reincarnation is more powerful than the Eye of Riding, which is the product of the power of the 6 paths, and if you want to get it, you must have a strong power, which ordinary people cannot obtain at all, let alone maintain. So once this power is obtained, it is fixed and the eyes are completely switched. People who obtain the Eye of Reincarnation, these eyes will merge with themselves, completely mutated. Unlike riding wheel eyes need stimulation to mutate, that is incomplete change, reincarnation eyes are complete changes. The chakra eye can retract freely, but it must also bear the pain of blindness, which is also caused by too much stimulation. Ye Feng heard the system's explanation and said helplessly, okay, the system seems to make sense. Now a pair of reincarnation eyes cannot be cancelled. Lord Ye keyed? Several dark ninjas looked at Ye Feng, and their faces suddenly changed. When Ye Feng saw the expressions of the dark ninjas, he knew that his reincarnation eye had scared these dark ninjas. Hey, it's me, I don't know why, I suddenly awakened the pupil technique. Ye Feng didn't know how to explain, so he simply didn't explain. Back home, Uzumaki Mito was stunned when he saw Ye Kid's eyes. Uzumaki Mito is from the Sengoku period and knows much more than those young dark ninjas. She pondered for a moment and said, Ye Feng, do you know what these eyes are? Ye Feng pretended to be stupid. Grandma Mito, you know? This is the eye of reincarnation. The reincarnation eyes of the 6 immortals. This shows that you are the inheritance of the 6 Tao immortals. Saying that, Uzumaki Mito himself was already excited. This is the destiny of heaven. We in Konoha are the village of destiny. You, as Hokage, are also a man of destiny. Joshinai next to him looked at Ye Kid and couldn't help but ask, Grandma Mito, isn't Ye Kid the bloodline inheritance of the original Hokage? How can it be? Uzumaki Mito explained, Joshinai, in fact, the Senju clan, as well as our Uzumaki clan, are all from the 6 Tao immortal lineage. Is that so? 6 Tao immortals, that is the legendary immortal. Thinking of this, Joshinai looked at Ye Feng with sparkling eyes, and suddenly thought in his heart, then, if he gave birth to a baby, would it also be the eye of reincarnation? Thinking about it, Joshinai's face turned red, and he wanted to give birth to a monkey for Ye Feng even more. It's just that Ye Feng is too fierce. She feels that she can't subdue Ye Feng a little, and she is always subdued by Ye Feng, and she is embarrassed. After a while, the 8th flying sun came. Although Sarutobi Hinata has abdicated, he is still very prestigious and well-connected in Konoha village. He heard that there was something wrong with Ye Feng's eyes, and he immediately came over. As a result, 8th flying sun almost sat down when he saw Ye Feng's reincarnation eye. This is, the 6 Tao immortals. Uzumaki Mito next to him nodded and said. Ape Fei looked, and finally determined that it was indeed the eye of reincarnation. 6 immortal bloodlines. Now Ye Feng's bloodline is spread. Uzumaki Mito looked at Ape Flying Sun Chopper and said, Ape Fly, then Ye Feng's pair of reincarnation eyes, do you want to make it public? Ape Fei sighed and said, if it is public, will it be too swaggering? Ye Feng said directly, if you don't make it public, you still have to dodge? No Hokage is like this. That's right, the 5 Shadows talks are ready to start, and Ye Feng will appear on the 5 Shadows talks in such a posture when the time comes. I'm afraid the other 4 shadows will have to be shocked by Ye Feng. Soon, Ape Flying Sun Chopper also left. Hao Yue was hanging high, and Ye Feng had just entered his room when he was hugged by Joshinai. Joshinai is very proactive today. She was still thinking in her heart whether her child would be a matter of reincarnation. However, for 5 consecutive days, Ye Feng found that Joshinai's kung fu was getting stronger and stronger, and it was time for the 5 Shadows talk. Chimu Shuamao and Bufeng Shui Men, which are known as the 2 powerhouses under the Night Maple, have also returned to Konoha village. The people who walked with Ye Feng, in addition to Chimu Shuamao and Bufeng Shui Men, there were also 18 people in the dark department. In addition to these, there are thousands of troops, ready to be called. In fact, Ye Feng didn't want to be so grand, because even if he was alone, I was afraid that in the ninja world, no one could help himself. However, Sarutobi must have asked for such careful arrangements, and said that the 2nd generation Hokage was injured because he was careless during the peace talks in Yunin village. For this matter, Ye Feng is of course very clear, and he will try a level copy every day, and slowly, the degree of copy twist also increases. At the same time, the fusion degree of the character card between the 1,000 hands has also increased to 20%. On the day of the appointment, Ye Feng took Konoha Shinobu and came to the rain-hidden village in the Land of Rain. The Lus of Yenin village was originally very unconvinced, but when he saw Ye Feng's reincarnation eye, his momentum was completely suppressed and he couldn't resist. This pair of rippled eyes is too terrifying. It's not just Lus. During the 5 Shadows talks, the participants of the other 4 ninja villages were all stunned. 3 generations of Earth Shadows, 4 generations of Water Shadows, 4 generations of Wind Shadows, and 4 generations of Thunder Shadows. They looked at Ye Feng's reincarnation eyes, and their mouths were wide open. Inoki, as the oldest and most extensive shadow of the 5 Shadows, knew the Hokage finale the moment he saw the Eye of Night Maple reincarnation. The Eye of Reincarnation is the orthodox inheritance of the 6 immortals. Ye Feng's strength is still so strong, does this still need to be beaten? At this time, Inoki found that his proud son Lus was now facing Ye Feng, and he couldn't be proud at all. And the 4 generations of Water Shadow, the 4th generation of Wind Shadow, and the 4th generation of Thunder Shadow were also surprised, and the appearance of Night Maple changed again. The 5 Shadows meeting began, and Ye Feng said his thoughts simply and clearly. Konoha village will become the ninja village that dominates the overall situation of the ninja world. Whether it is the other 4 major ninja villages, or other small ninja villages, Konoha village must set up a supervision branch in their village, specifically to supervise the ninja village. As soon as Ye Feng's words came out, he immediately aroused the anger of everyone. For generations of Hokage. You're going too far. Yes, we will never allow this. For generations of Hokage, think twice. If you do this, you will destroy all the traditions of Konoha. Ye Feng looked at the four shadows with a smile, and said with a smile, I won't say more nonsense, our decision in Konoha is like this, who dares not to obey, then, we will give them war. As soon as these words came out, the audience suddenly fell silent. Although Ye Feng's original deterrent power is great, there are still many ninja villages who are opposed. Still that sentence, who dares not to follow, I will come one by one and personally solve this matter, just take it here now. The Land of Rain, Yuin Village, was originally fought by me, and I didn't capture this place, because every ninja village should have its own rule. Konoha's approach here is very respectful of other shinobi villages, and supervising the branch is only supervision, as long as you don't do too much, it's completely fine. Saying that, Ye Feng immediately waved his hand, and Buofeng Shuimen immediately walked in with a wad of information. Night Maple asked Wave Feng Shui Gate to distribute information to four shadows. You can take a look and you can sign it. When seeing heard Ye Feng's words, his face suddenly turned ugly. Even though Lus was shocked by Ye Feng's reincarnation he couldn't help but say, Ye Feng, you are just a Hokage, just the leader of Konoha village, what qualifications do you have to command us? Ye Feng looked up at the Lus, a pair of reincarnation eyes turned, stared at the Lus coldly and said, what qualifications? My strength is qualification. Inoki's face changed drastically, and a slap was placed on Lus's face. Syllable. The whole person flew out upside down, fell heavily on the ground, and the teeth of his face fell out. At this time, Lus woke up from Ye Feng's illusion, covered his bleeding mouth, and his face was full of horror. Inoki looked at Ye Kid with a gloomy face and said, Ye Feng, you are completely against Konoha's will of fire by doing this. Are you trying to subvert the concept of the first Hokage and the second Hokage for so many years? Ye Feng looked at Inoki and said, don't talk nonsense, obey, or die, you can only choose one. Episode 106. Ye Feng's strength once made four shadows almost give in. But the people below stopped doing it. What if you are Hokage? Even if you are the Eye of Reincarnation, what about the sixth Tao Immortal Inheritance? I don't believe it, 50,000 people, 100,000 people, still can't pile you up. Among them, there is also the coaxing of Lus and others. Lus was humiliated in front of so many people, and he already hated Ye Feng in his heart. Before the four shadows could speak, they suddenly found that the 100,000-strong army of the four great ninja villages outside was already surging, surrounding Ye Feng, as well as their four shadows. Four shadows' faces changed, and he quickly jumped out of the window behind them. They know that things have changed. And the Wave Wind Water Gate, as well as the Dark Ninja, are very worried to protect the Night Maple. Ye Feng sighed without care, sure enough, there will always be accidents in every meeting, it's a pity. Ye Feng shook his head, and the next moment, his chakra eyes glowed red. Originally, there was no need to die. Up, kill him. Feeling Ye Feng's terrifying murderous aura, Inoki also made a decision immediately and immediately issued an order. Since you want to kill, you must be merciless. Under Inoki's order, even the Sand-Hidden Village, which had previously returned to Night Maple and Konoha, the fourth generation of Wind Shadows, also moved. With the order of the four shadows, the 100,000-strong army of the four hidden villages all broke out into an imposing war roar and rushed towards the direction of Ye Feng. You shrimp soldier crabs, do you think you can stop me? Mantis arms as a car, do not measure themselves. The corners of Ye Feng's mouth lifted slightly, and then with a step, the high platform where he was originally standing was completely shattered from top to bottom, and it instantly shattered. I saw a black shadow like a meteor that fell directly among the 100,000 troops of the four great ninja villages. Bo Feng Shuimen and the others all exclaimed. Naruto-sama. The next second, they were stunned again. Shoo. H. Like a flash flood, the impact caused by the Night Maple directly caused the earth to instantly disintegrate, smashing out a big pit. For Ye Feng, it was just a sprint force that directly shoveled it up. The terrifying impact killed more than a dozen shinobi on the spot, and a few Zongnin were squeezed into meat sauce by the raised ground. A man from the misty hidden village looked at his chest, which had been pierced by a flowing stone. From beginning to end, he couldn't react to what happened, and he had already died here, and there were many more people like him. Looking at everyone's stunned and fearful expressions, Ye Feng grinned, and then broke the hand of Yen Shinobu next to him. Swoosh! An afterimage swept through the void, and he had directly passed through dozens of ninjas, and a person's head rose up with a pillar of blood. Flying thunder, God's art. Buofeng Shuimen looked at Ye Feng's killing, his eyelids jumped, but he still followed Ye Feng's back and harvested the remaining enemies. At this moment, the enemy of Konoha village is the four great ninja villages. Dark Ministry, follow me, kill. I saw that where Ye Feng passed, only countless broken corpses and even the residue that were not even corpses were left. Neither weapons nor ninjutsu physical arts could leave a trace on his body. But Ye Feng's attack method is quite simple, without the use of ninjutsu at all. Just by relying on physical skills, he can hit the opponent's fatal point at will, take away the weapon and then cut off the head, and his movements seem to be subconsciously done without thinking. On the battlefield, this is simply a ruthless, efficient killing machine, constantly shuttling through the coalition forces, harvesting the lives of everyone. Boom! Dozens of large fireballs directly bombarded the position of Ye Feng, and the terrifying high temperature directly burned hundreds of meters of matter within the range, and the terrifying impact even accidentally injured more than a dozen allied ninjas. However, Ye Feng walked out of the sea of flames without reacting, and the high temperature that was enough to melt steel seemed to be no different to him than the gentle spring breeze, and dozens of upper ninja combined forces to shoot ninjutsu on his body could not leave even a trace of scars on his body. The special grade shinobu in the back row looked at Ye Feng, who was constantly killing, and said angrily, "Don't stop. Continue with the command, fire, water, thunder, earth, wind." All kinds of ninjutsu shot in the direction of Ye Kid. Still don't understand? Your ninjutsu has no effect on me. At this time, the surface of Ye Feng's skin was only a layer of Susanoo's chakra nearby, which had blocked all the attacks of the coalition forces. Susanoo, now Ye Feng uses it in front of everyone without concealment. The Eye of Reincarnation is enough to explain everything. Ye Kid continued to march towards the army of 4 shadows and 100,000 people. No matter what kind of ninjutsu bombardment he faced, it could not make him take a step back. The ghostly figure quickly approaches the enemy with a thunderous force and then kills. Faced with such a monster, all the ninjas showed fear. In less than a minute, the ongoing killing had left nearly 10,000 bodies on the ground. However, Ye Feng still did not stop, and he kept repeating the same operation. Coming and going freely in the enemy group, the opponent's ninjutsu cannot break his Susanoo's protection, and he can kill the enemy with every move, and he doesn't even need to think about these people's moves, and his instinctive reaction alone is enough to defend and counterattack. Since the war, no one has taken his move and not died. He rushed into the enemy group like a butcher knife to cut tofu, and he could cause a casualty without hindrance. His more and more courageous momentum also caused the ninja in the back row to become more and more flustered. The safety of the forward alliance is not even considered anymore. Directly perform various advanced ninjutsu. The huge earth dragon bit into Ye Feng, directly scattering into countless rubble. Nearly 1,000 degrees of hot flames enveloped his body, but it could not penetrate Susanoo's protection. Tornadoes of different sizes and winds engulfed Night Maple in it, but they could not leave a trace on his skin. In addition, there are various special ninjutsu, sealing techniques, etc., but they are also useless. Finally, a strong chakra fluctuation suddenly erupted in the rear of the coalition army, attracting Ye Feng's attention. Episode 107. Ye Feng looked into the distance, and saw that there were thousands of IWA shinobi with their hands raised, and directly above them was a huge rock that was comparable to the heavenly shock star, constantly swirling. Finally a little bit of a look. Ye Feng stopped his movements and stared at the combined attack Tudao that flew towards him. The other ninjas also noticed the change, and when they looked up, they also saw the huge meteorite. This is the combined attack technique of Yenin village. The secret technique launched by thousands of upper ninjas. No one can survive this impact. After realizing the danger, they immediately withdrew from the range of the technique's attack, leaving Ye Feng standing there alone. Unlike the scene they expected Ye Feng to be buried by a boulder, they saw Ye Feng raise his fist and then jump high into the sky. Does he want to? An incredible thought spread from everyone's hearts, and then as if to confirm their conjecture, Ye Feng's fist hit the center of the boulder squarely, and the strong ripples spread out in all directions at the position where the two met. Click, click. As the sound of glass shattering sounded, I saw that the earth escape technique, which was composed of thousands of Shangnan combined forces in the sky, gradually collapsed. From the place where the fist hit, deep cracks slowly passed down. The next moment, countless rubble of different sizes fell to the ground, making countless loud noises. And in this piece of sand, Ye Feng's figure still walked towards the 100,000-strong army of the 4 great ninja villages without slowing down. It's not a dimension at all, is it? Everyone subconsciously held their breath and looked at this ridiculously strong man. These ninjas, they all realized that it was impossible for them to hold back Ye Kid's steps, not even for a second. In the rear, Inoki and AI and the others, although they are also shadow-level powerhouses, there is no doubt that they have fully realized the terrifying nature of Ye Feng from the collision just now. You don't even need ninjutsu, you can break the combined attack technique of thousands of sand ninja with just one punch. How can it be? Inoki muttered absently. As the wind shadow, he knew the power of this combined attack technique better than the 3 shadows present. Even if he was possessed by the dust, he probably had to do his best to block this move, but Ye Feng broke this ninjutsu like a pebble on the side of the road casually. On the other side, in the center of the battlefield, Ye Feng twisted his neck. It's time to get real when you're warming up. The next moment, he raised his right hand and made a seal with one hand, and in an instant, a huge amount of chakra surged around his body. Boom! The chakra, which condensed as if it was substance, instantly formed an anthropomorphic skeleton, followed by lines and armor that spread out muscles. Susanoo's second form was completed in less than a second. The samurai who followed the half-body did not stop being gigantic, and finally, under the gaze of countless shocks, he turned into a third form with an even more violent momentum. Is this the legendary Susanoo? Looking at Susanoo with a body size like a giant mountain, Inoki swallowed his saliva, this posture like a martial god. I heard that its combat power was enough to suppress the tailed beast. But why didn't Ye Feng use Muduan, but Susanoo? The eyes of the fourth generation of Lei Ying suddenly widened, thinking about the possibility of extreme horror. In fact, Ye Feng's battle was purely to use the ability of the eye. Susanoo's pupil technique requires the caster's pupil power to be exercised to the extreme, and he has a great amount of chakra to use it. Come on! Night Maple shouted towards the four Kage alliance, although his voice was not loud, but the earth-shaking sound wave burst out from Susanoo, spreading out with Night Maple as the center, and the impact caused the ground to crack hundreds of meters, and some ninjas with slightly inferior strength in the distance were even directly overturned to the ground. Looking at the giant body that towered into the clouds and surpassed more than 10 meters tall, everyone showed shocked eyes. This is not only the instinctive fear that creatures have when they see an existence that is dozens of times larger than themselves, but also the great coercion brought by pure power. At this time, the fourth generation of Lei Ying only felt that his mouth was dry, his throat seemed to be a little hoarse, and only a sense of powerlessness rose in his heart. They're going to fight this thing? How is this thing going to fight? You kid, hold me up. At this time, the two pings next to him roared, although his face was also very ugly, but his eyes still maintained a fighting intent. Unlike AI, a relatively young shadow, he is a person who has experienced the azure field, and the more he gets to this time, the more he can't give up. Later, I will be the striker with Thunder Shadow, Wind Shadow, you will exert control and interference on Night Feng, and as for Water Shadow, you will cover us. In the face of such a terrifying opponent, we can no longer have reservations. Listening to Inoki's words, the other three shadows did not speak, but they also tacitly agreed. Ye Feng, this enemy, absolutely none of them are opponents alone, but if they work together, they still have a chance to win. Go. 3 generations of Tokage Inoki, 4 generations of Kazekage Raza, 4 generations of Thunder Shadow AI, and 4 generations of Water Shadow Citrus Yukura, the 4 great shadows worked together for the first time in history. 4 shadows finally made a move, and Ye Feng is finished. Some of the Shimoshinobu, who looked quite young, showed excited expressions, as if they couldn't wait to see the picture of Ye Feng being pressed to the ground by the 4 shadows. Only some of the older Shangnin showed a worried look. Even if the 4 shadows made a move, the result was unknown. The 4 shadows descended directly opposite Night Maple's. After watching it for so long, are you finally willing to end? Without any room to pay attention to Ye Feng's mocking words, the 4 shadows immediately began to act as soon as they stepped on the battlefield. The first to strike was Citrus Yukura as a cover, and his hands quickly sealed, mist, hidden art. In an instant, a fog rose around the Night Maple that covered all traces of the place. Ye Feng raised his eyebrows, and the light in his reincarnation eyes slowly flowed, but what surprised him a little was that the mist concealment technique released by this water shadow could actually block the information emitted by the other party's chakra. Oh, and a little interesting. Although he couldn't see the location of the other party, Ye Feng's other senses were exceptionally sensitive, and he had already grasped the position of several people in less than 3 seconds. Ugh. Inoki and AI in the rear rushed out of the thick fog, and Inoki floated high in the air, his hands clasped together on his chest. Dust. The art of origin stripping. Inoki shouted in a deep voice. This is an attack and enchantment fusion ninjutsu developed by the 2nd generation Metakage, which fuses the 3 chakra attributes of wind, fire, and earth into dust. Based on the straight line, the opponent can be broken down in molecules, and the dust can no longer be repaired and can produce a large-scale explosion. It can be described as a blood succession elimination that surpasses the blood succession limit. Swoosh! As soon as Inoki's words fell, a white cube suddenly took shape and shot towards Ye Feng. At the same time, the thunder instantly wrapped around the body surface of the 4th generation of Thunder Shadows, sizzling, and the yellow hair all hardened and stood up. Thunderplow Heat Knife. At this time, Lei Ying's whole body gathered Lei Dun chakra, and he rushed into the Night Maple within Susanoo's ability to speed with his body. Magnetism. Placer Gold Burial. Luo Sha grabbed his right hand in the direction of Ye Feng. The ground on which Night Maple stood suddenly surged, and dark golden sand rose from the ground, forming a waterfall-like attack that quickly attacked Night Maple and directly trapped the entire huge Susanoo in place, as if trying to block Night Feng's actions. Shoo! At this moment, the Dust Dun and the Thunder Plow Hot Knife attacked the past at the same time. Thunder flashed, and space collapsed. The entire battlefield seemed to collapse, and the crack centered on the energy burst spread in all directions, and the entire land sank several meters. In the flying smoke, the ninjas of the coalition army could not see the scene inside, and could only feel the powerful collision between forces from the violent spatial fluctuations coming from the air. Was it successful? Just when everyone had this question, Ye Feng's cold voice broke everyone's illusion. It's quite good, but unfortunately, this accuracy is still slightly inadequate. Episode 108. Ye Feng's voice came from above, and then I saw a blue sword light rising into the sky, and the fierce sword wind directly tore through the smoke and dust and even the clouds in the sky, directly breaking an empty road of several kilometers. He dodged the attack just now, and immediately formed an encirclement net. Colossus of the Rock. Inoki shouted, slapped his hands towards the ground, and a huge rock golem immediately rose from the ground, and AI and Inoki jumped above the Colossus's head. The Colossus also jumped up, turning his thick arms high and towards Susanoo. Boom. Although the size of the Colossus is far less than Susanoo, it still affects the opponent's movements at high altitude, and while Susanoo is controlled, the thunder and lightning on AI's body erupt again, and it is a punch to Susanoo's eyebrows. However, just before this was about to hit, the Colossus of Rock was cut in two by the other party, and in the face of the blade that greeted him, AI still chose to retreat. At this time, Luosha has gathered a large amount of gold sand, and Citrus Yukura is also forming a seal. Magnetic escape. Golden sands. Shui Dun. The art of the water prison. The golden sand and water rushed towards the night maple that was about to fall in midair, while the thunder shadow was caught by Inoki and fell back to the ground. Boom. Susanoo swung his knife violently, and countless sand and water droplets fell. The night maple who lifted Susa's state fell back in the center of the battlefield, but at this time, the four shadows were already standing in his southeast, southwest, and northwest, forming an encirclement network. Ye Feng, you are already surrounded by us, and the next attack is not so easy to hide. It's really surrounded, after all, it's 4 against 1. Ye Feng's body surged with blue chakra while saying, even if it's 4 against 1, we have to win. Don't call us mean. Citrus Yukura looked at Ye Kid seriously, and the water flowed on his body. It's good that we use this way to recognize your power. You are Night Maple. Listening to the words of this 4th generation water shadow, Ye Feng shook his head and said with a smile, I won't call you despicable, but since it's 4 against 1, it's just right to play. Ye Feng put out a crossed handprint, and the next moment, a puff of smoke rose, and 16 shadow doppelgangers appeared around him. Swish. The sound of breaking the air continued to sound, and I saw that the 16 shadow doppelgangers were divided into 4 groups, and groups of 4 stood in front of the 4 shadows. You don't think you can scare us with a shadow avatar? Luosha reluctantly lifted a smile and said faintly. Of course not, I don't look down on you yet. With Yokaid's words, 16 shadow doppelgangers were sealed at the same time, and the evil chakra burst out from them, forming 16 third-stage Susanoo respectively. Moreover, the strength of these Susanoo is not weaker than that of the Night Maple. Ye Feng narrowed his eyes. This is called 4 against 1, but don't call me mean. After all, you are the 4 shadows. Looking at the 4 Susanoo doppelgangers surrounding him, the sweat on the side of the 4 shadows' foreheads all slipped down in unison. This is not sweat from the battle, but cold sweat from being scared. Has this guy been fooling us all this time? AI's trembling lips already illustrated the young Lei Ying's emotions. Now that he had experienced what his father's 3rd-generation Thunder Shadow felt when he faced Ye Feng, the kind of battle that could not see the slightest hope was really a torture and torment. If you can't win, you can't win. Among the 4 shadows, Luosha has completely clarified the current situation, and the other party's attitude towards them is cat and mouse, I'm afraid. The old man Inoki said victory earlier is just nonsense. Even if we are present with the 4 shadows and the remaining ninjas, it is impossible to defeat this humanoid monster. Just as Luosha wanted to withdraw from the battlefield, the 4 Susa doppelgangers stomped directly on their feet, and the huge figure appeared in front of Luosha like lightning that tore through the night sky. Where his body passed, a long wave of white chi was dragged out, and the air crackled and screamed. The speed of this step has exceeded the limits of the dynamic vision of everyone present. Even the fastest Thunder Shadow among them, his eyes, could not see the trajectory of this doppelganger. You better stay here for me. Ye Feng clasped his hands in front of his chest, ignoring the people below. The next moment, although Luosha dodged 3 attacks, the lightsaber of one of Susa's doppelgangers directly pierced Luosha's body, and the violent chakra raged in his body, as if an explosion had occurred inside. Immediately after the pierced abdomen, the blood vaporized in an instant, followed by the chest, shoulders, and throat, and one explosion after another. Luosha looked at his shattered body with fear on his face before he died, and his heart was full of incomparable remorse. Why did he have to go against Ye Feng? It is clear that surrender and compromise are not uncommon in the ninja world. When the original Hokage and Yaki did not rely on their powerful force to shock the countries to maintain the situation in the ninja world? However, his current voice was destined to receive no response from anyone, and Ye Feng casually threw Luo Sha's body out, hitting the ground and scattering into countless pieces of meat. Seeing this scene, Citrus Yukura's face changed greatly, and the person had quickly retreated behind him. Shui Duan. Water Dragon Shot. For water dragons suddenly rose from the feet of Citrus Yukura and roared up to the sky, opening their mouths and biting towards the 4 Susa doppelgangers. Boom. One of the Susa doppelgangers easily scattered the water dragon bomb into a dewdrop in the sky, and the remaining 3 then threw their fists at the retreating Citrus Yukura, and the 3 blue giant fists caught up with the 4th generation of water shadows in an instant. In the face of this huge fist, Citrus Yukura quickly formed a water array wall up to 10 meters thick for protection. However, this punch still broke through the water array wall unabated and directly hit his body. The powerful force shook Citrus Yukura's whole body numb, and the whole body was churning, and he couldn't help but spew out a mouthful of thick blood in his mouth. However, with this counterforce, his retreat speed became more rapid. At this moment, although Citrus Yukura's heart was full of fear of death, years of experience made him still retain a trace of calm. He knew that he absolutely could not stop at this time. As long as Susanoo seized the opportunity, he would definitely die. However, no matter how fast his speed is, he still has physical limitations. In the eyes of Ye Keat's reincarnation, the speed of Citrus Yukura is as slow as a movie that has slowed down 100 times. After several entanglements, a Susa doppelganger suddenly appeared directly above Citrus Yukura, holding a giant sword high in midair and slashing at the head. The sound of the air being discharged sounded, and the next moment Citrus Yukura's body was cut in half from beginning to end. 2 more. He glanced at the remaining 2 shadows and did not speak. Episode 109. Looking at the 16 Susanoo in front of him, neither Inoki nor AI dared to move at all. They feel like sheep being targeted by a lion, and the slightest movement will cause a devastating blow to the other party, and the previous Rosa and Citrus Yukura are a lesson in the past. Old man Inoki, my speed here is the fastest, I will cover you, maybe one of us can survive. I will directly attack Ye Feng's body, you take advantage of the opportunity to escape. The expression of the 4th generation of Thunder Shadow gradually became resolute, and he was mentally prepared to die in battle. What are you talking about? Do you think I will not be able to accept such an offer from you? Inoki glared angrily, put his hands in front of him, and the chakra in his body became active again. However, at this time, the 4th generation of Thunder Shadow had already made up his mind, and he did not pay attention to Inoki's thoughts, and a thunder instantaneous appeared in front of Ye Feng in 0.01 seconds. The right fist slammed into Ye Feng's head, but Ye Feng just casually raised his hand and easily caught the opponent's punch. Click. Lei Ying's face showed pain, and he saw that his right arm had twisted unnaturally, and was directly broken by Ye Feng. Your strength is not comparable to the 3rd generation of Thunder Shadow, but your temper is worse than your lousy. Ye Feng's palm directly grabbed Lei Ying's head, and the terrifying strange force made the other party's entire cheek make a shattering sound, as if in the next moment, Lei Ying's head would be directly pinched by Ye Feng. The previous 3 generations of Thunder Shadow stopped me in order to save you, but I didn't expect you to come to the door by yourself so soon. At this time, Lei Ying wanted to move, but he couldn't move, he wanted to resist, but compared to the power of Night Maple was like a grasshopper shaking a tree. Susanoo's chakra energy field had completely wrapped him. In this chakra condensed to the extreme, Lei Ying didn't open his mouth to speak, and even the lungs used for breathing were like being pinched by a big hand, and it was difficult to rise and fall. And Ye Feng's side didn't care about the situation of Lei Ying at all, and it still fell with a knife, and Lei Ying's head fell directly. Alas, I'm tired of playing. Taking back 16 Susanoo, Yokaid said a little boredly. Killing 3 shadow-level powerhouses in 1 minute did not have a trace of accomplishment for him. He looked at everyone expressionlessly, with only a hint of disappointment in his eyes. Sure enough, no amount of ants is interesting, in exchange for repetitive boredom. Boom. With a loud bang, he turned on Susanoo again, jumped upwards, and rolled up a hurricane. Why did he run away all of a sudden? Looking at Ye Feng, who had leapt thousands of meters into the sky, suddenly, a terrible thought drilled into Inoki's mind. Damn it. His face changed wildly, and he turned his head to the demon leeches, Firelight, and other rock ninja beside him and roared, you guys hurry up and run. The demon leech looked at Ono with a puzzled expression, and wanted to go over to help him, but was pushed away by Inoki. If you don't leave, you're going to die here. The entire village of 100,000 troops has to die here. Inoki's short body leaped over, and he attached chakra to his throat and shouted in a voice that everyone could hear. The 100,000 strong army of the 4 great ninja villages retreated immediately. The 100,000-strong army of the 4 great ninja villages immediately retreated. Although they couldn't understand the thoughts of the 3 generations of tying, everyone could hear the tension and urgency in each other's tone, and naturally took immediate action. The original 100,000 coalition troops were now less than 30,000 left, and everyone tried all their strength to try to escape from this area. High in the sky, Ye Feng had already taken in the entire battlefield. He looked at the ninja below, who fled in all directions like ants that had been smashed into a nest, and couldn't help but show a cruel smile. It seems that Inoki knows what I want to do. It's not too late, it should still be able to save some people. In the next second, Susanoo's body had already rushed towards the ground at a speed that was indistinguishable to the naked eye, and a pitch-black line formed in the air seemed to have split the entire firmament in two. Below, Inoki's hands kept combining and sealing, and he understood that once Susanoo controlled by Yokai sprinted down at that height, the damage caused by the impact force would probably not be spared for everything within a radius of 1 kilometer. That's why he let the 100,000-strong army of the 4 great ninja villages retreat immediately, and chose to stay here alone. He is a soil shadow, and the characteristic of Earth Dun is that it can change the hardness, composition, mass, gravity, or terrain of an object, which is the best attribute that constitutes a protective technique. If anyone else can protect these people, it is only him. Earth movement. Tuduan gang style technique. Sukoden Iwa's arm. Tuduan super light heavy rock art. With the imprint of Inoki, huge rock platforms rose from the ground, and 8-meter-tall rock monsters and rock giant palms also continued to appear from the ground, protecting the fleeing allied ninjas. In the end, Inoki exhausts the best chakra to form the last Madra. The serious overdraft made Inoki couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood, and he stared at the night maple rushing down from above, muttering, "Ye Feng, this is my last dust, take it." Inoki slowly opened his hands, and a white transparent cube was condensing between his palms. Dust escape limit peeling technique. This move is an upgraded version of the origin stripping technique, which has been enhanced in scope and power, and has a lasting effect, and everything within the scope of the technique will be broken down into atoms. This is the ninjutsu I used with my last life force, let me drag you into hell together. Watching the cube that became huge, cover the night maple in it, Inoki couldn't help but show a comforting smile, at least he finally blocked this demon head. It's too early to be relieved. Finally, in Inoki's field of vision, he saw a giant samurai like a god falling towards him. This was the last thing he saw. Boom. The whole earth is rolling like a domino bone disc, and unprecedented power is crushing the land. The cracked earth, a powerful force, is turning things that originally belonged to the ground and the ground upside down. Countless trees, rocks, and lakes sank into the ground, while the underground ore and groundwater were thrown to the ground. With the battlefield as the center, within 10 square kilometers, everything was destroyed. The powerful shock and vibration swept in all directions, and did not gradually dissipate until 10 kilometers away, and even the entire Thunder Country could feel it. It was as if the scene of Ragnarok was naked in front of human eyes, and from this moment on, everything seemed vulnerable under this godlike power. Far away from the battle site, there were thousands of Konoha ninjas, who also felt this vibration, and the swirling air flow even made people take a few steps back. Everyone looked towards the location where the battle broke out earlier, and saw that the nearby high rocks and mountains had been flattened, and smoke and dust rose up into the sky, covering the entire sky and forming a huge mushroom cloud. Looking at everything that happened in front of him, Bo Feng Shuimen said with a shocked face, "This. Did it all be done by Night Maple?" They stared blankly at the war-torn land. Never before has death unfolded before them so shockingly. Those ninjas who seemed extremely powerful to ordinary people were how vulnerable they were in front of Ye Feng. This battle, Ye Feng is very satisfied. Because even if there is a big battle, Ye Feng still completes the previous option. Episode 110, Ye Feng originally wanted to take advantage of the leaderlessness of the 4 major ninja villages to capture the 4 major ninja villages and unify the ninja world. Unexpectedly, Ye Feng had just returned to Konoha village and was preparing to deploy the ninja world unification battle when he found an uninvited guest. A black vortex appeared on the Hokage rock in Konoha village. The next moment, 2 women with graceful figures walked out from inside, both of them were uniformly dressed, wearing pitch-black ninja suits, even the hood cape outside was black, and their faces were covered with a snow-white mask. "Teacher, is this the village of Konoha back then?" A crisp female voice came from the slightly shorter woman in black. Judging from the voice, the age was probably about 15 or 16 years old. The woman, who was called the teacher by the girl, nodded and replied, "Well, we should have come a little earlier than the Atsuki Mokpo style. You stay here first, I'll go and probe the neighborhood first." But just after the teacher left, the girl in black seemed to remember something. "By the way, he should still be there, right?" Immediately afterwards, as soon as the girl stepped on the footsteps, she disappeared without a trace with a whoosh. On the street, a man dressed in black with black hair and a handsome face walked out of the ramen shop, and as he was walking alone in the dark alley, on the trees not far behind him, the girl in black stood on the thick branch and observed him. "It's still about the same," the girl in black muttered. "Pretty much something." Suddenly, a cold voice sounded from next to her, making the girl in black tremble, and when she looked sideways, she saw that the man next to her was not the man she had been following. "Spy or killer?" Ye Feng leaned next to the tree and said with a slight appreciation, "But your tracking technique is okay, and your aura is very professionally concealed, even if it is a dark part of the shinobi, it is not at your level." For Ye Feng's evaluation, the girl in black ignored it, but used the teleportation technique to escape far away at the first time. "Go? Can you still walk?" Looking at the back of the other party's rapid withdrawal, Ye Feng also followed. The two black shadows in the night sky moved quickly, and although the speed of the night maple itself could catch each other in an instant, he also had a cat and mouse mentality, so he took a walk after dinner. In fact, Ye Kid had already discovered this girl in black the moment she entered Konoha village. "Finally, the two of you chased me to the mountain above the Hokage rock, and the girl in black finally stopped. You're the 4th generation Hokage night maple, right?" The girl in black seemed to want to pretend to speak in a cold tone, but in Ye Feng's opinion, it was a little nonsensical. "Don't you know who I am, to follow me? Don't pretend to be this acting." At the same time that Ye Feng spoke, the girl turned into a bolt of thunder again and fled. Between the electric light and flint, the two have already exchanged dozens of moves, during which the girl continues to flow like thunder, while Ye Feng maintains a similar speed to follow each other. "Little ghost, game over." Ye Feng stretched out his white palm and grabbed the thunder that jumped in the void, and instantly appeared next to the girl, but just when he was about to grab the other party, what he grabbed suddenly turned into a rock. "Huh?" Ye Feng's pupils shrank, his gaze shifted to the left, and a pair of red pupils under the mask exuded powerful pupil power. "Sharingan, are you from the Uchiha clan?" Just now, the other party obviously used pupil technique to transposition himself and the rock in space, which required quite strong pupil power to do so. "Uchiha has been killed by him, Abito they are still little children, where is there such a strong Uchiha clan in this year, or a woman?" Moreover, the woman in black in front of her is quite young in terms of voice and posture, but her combat ability and experience are quite sufficient. A Uchiha clan that is beyond the scope of the plot. Ye Feng suddenly narrowed his eyes and looked at the visitor curiously. "What is this maiden divine?" Ye Feng became serious, and the girl on the opposite side also seemed to notice the changes in Ye Feng's body, and she was a little panicked, and when she just wanted to say something, she was covered by Ye Feng's explosive energy. "It seems that we still have to get real." Ye Feng had already decided to restrain the other party first, and his hands snapped together. "Mu dun." The art of the three-headed wooden dragon. With his imprint, 3 huge wooden dragons immediately rose on the ground, biting the girl from all directions. For a moment, the space and time around the girl seemed to have stopped, unable to move. "It's time for the game to end." Just as the wooden dragon was under the control of Ye Feng, he was grabbing the woman in black, the other party suddenly raised his hands and shouted, "Wait, Dad. I'm not fighting. I'm not fighting, Dad." "Who to call?" Ye Feng stopped his attack and looked at the man in black in front of him with some dismay. "You. Who do you call Dad?" I saw the woman in black take off her hood and mask, revealing her long silky black hair and a beautiful face. And this face also reminded him of a woman, Makoto Uchiha. "She called me Dad, and she looked like Makoto." Ye Feng felt a little confused for a moment. Even if something really happened to Makoto and me, how could there be such a big daughter? What's more, nothing happened to myself and Makoto. On the Hokage rock, Ye Feng rubbed his temples with some distress. "So, are you really the daughter born to Makoto and me in the future?" The girl in front of her, no, Seiko, what she said made Ye Feng not know what to react for a while. Sasuke, Seiko. Nima, Hokage was played bad by himself. Does Naruto still exist? Night Maple is not sure. However, he was sure of one thing, it would be really fun if he let Jio Shinai know Seiko's identity. Looking at Seiko's face, although the whole looks like Makoto Uchiha, if you look closely, you can really see that there are some similarities with yourself, especially the eyes. In the world of Hokage, bloodlines can be said to be substantial power. Through the eye contact, Seiko is indeed her own daughter, and the 6 realms hidden in the depths will not deceive. Alas, let's not say anything else. According to your words, you and your teacher crossed over to prevent the Otsukipo style from seizing the 9-tailed chakra on Uzumaki Mido, so where is your teacher? My teacher, she's here. Seiko suddenly pointed to the other side of the street, and saw a woman who was also dressed in a black mask walking towards this side. When I first left, I thought that this girl of yours would come out like this. The woman in black seemed to shake her head a little helplessly, and then she looked at Ye Feng, who seemed to have a smile under the mask. Teacher. The woman took off the mask to reveal a mature and beautiful face, although there was a lot difference in temperament. but the facial features could still vaguely see the youthful appearance of the past. "Are you Lin?" The mature woman showed a bright smile. "Teacher, you can still recognize me." Ye Feng found that today was indeed a surprise, and the woman in front of him was his disciple, the future Noera Rin. "This is really..." Ye Feng originally wanted to ask something, but after thinking about it, he still forgot. It's not a matter of trust, but the more you know about the future, the more likely it is to influence future development. Ye Feng did not continue to entangle those family trivia, nor did he let them reveal more information about the future. And Seiko and the future Rin Noera also understand this, so both sides also keep their mouths shut. After that, the trio decided on some plans for the Otsukipo style. First of all, the goal of the Otsukipo style is to collect all the chakras of the tailed beasts, and since the chakra of the nine-tailed is the rarest, he travels to this era to extract his few nine-tailed chakras from the elderly whirlpool Mito. "We have to make sure Mito-sama is safe," Seiko emphasized. "The best thing to do is to perform the sealing technique. In that case, even if Otsukipo style captures Mito-sama, he will not be able to retrieve the chakra in her body." Noera Lin analyzed seriously. "However, Mito-sama is the widow of the first generation and an important figure in Konoha, and it is difficult for me and Seiko, two strangers, to contact each other now, but now with your teacher, our actions will be much simpler." After saying this, Noera Lin taught the future sealing technique to Ye Feng. Ye Feng learned quickly, and with his talent and the knowledge and experience gained after fusing the power of countless powerhouses, it only took about 2 or 3 minutes to master this new sealing technique from the future. But learning the sealing technique from a disciple, it feels really subtle. 20 minutes later, Hokage brought Seiko and Rin Noera back to the Hokage building and explained the situation to Kiki Shwomo, Hakashuemon, and Dark Part. Of course, the situation that Hokage said still concealed the identities of Seiko, Rin Noera, and the future of Otsukipo-style people. After all, once this matter was explained, it would become quite troublesome, and Ye Feng naturally did not want to mention this information to others. It just shows that a terrorist called Otsukipo style will attempt to invade Konoha and want to capture the chakra on Uzumaki Mito. Seiko and Rin Noera are collaborators who provide information and provide assistance, and everyone must cooperate with the two. For Ye Feng's words, everyone will not doubt or disobey Yin. This is the prestige he has accumulated for a long time. After deploying the operation, Ye Feng went back to find Jiao Shinai, also using the same statement as the White Fang. "Isn't that Mito's mother-in-law's situation very dangerous?" Jiao Shina said slightly uneasily. "Uzumaki Mito was a grandmother-like existence to her." "Yes, that's why I asked you to come with me." Although the sealing technique provided by Rin Noera in the future can be completed by one person, it is better if it is completed by two people, and there is no need to fear that the nine-tailed chakra will be leaked again in the future. In addition, Ye Feng specially came back to bring Jiao Shinai in the past, also to add an extra layer of protection to the side of Uzumaki Mito. Although Jiao Shinai's current strength is not up to the shadow level, but there is also the level of special grade upper ninja, coupled with the majestic vitality of the Uzumaki family and the sealing technique that Chakra and Jiao Shinai are good at, it is still very reliable as a bodyguard. On the other side, above Konoha, a twisted vortex suddenly emerged, and then a black shadow burst out of the whirlpool. With a bang, the black shadow fell directly onto the building not far away. "This broken place really smells annoying all the time." A man in white overlooked the view of Konoha with a look of disgust. He was pale, with long blue and white hair tied into a high ponytail. Both eyes are white, his face is sly, there are no eyebrows, there are only 2 dots on his forehead, and a pair of protective horns on his head. The fish basket is carried on his back, and the fishing rod he holds in his hand emits a red light. He is the Otsukipo style, a member of the Atsuki clan with white eyes and reincarnation eyes. In order to collect all the tailed beast chakra, he used the treasure plow of the big tube wood to descend here through time and space. At the moment when Yurashi appeared in Konoha, Seiko, who was waiting for Hokage with the future Rin Noera, immediately sensed the other party's breath. "Teacher, the big tube of Mokpo style has appeared. You can't let this guy continue to do evil anymore." Seiko and Rin Noera immediately led the White Fang and their group of Konoha ninjas towards the direction of the Otokipo-style chakra. When they arrived, Atsuki Mokurashi was grabbing the body of an upper shinobu and absorbing the other's chakra. "You two stinky women again, what 2 annoying flies." Atsukipo scolded unpleasantly, originally thinking that he could avoid these 2 annoying ghosts by traveling through time and space, but he didn't expect to still run into them. "But that's fine, since that's the case, then even if it's a trouble point today, I'm going to kill you." Atsuki Mokpo style made up his mind. "Do it." Seiko was the first to rush forward with a flash of thunder, followed by White Fang and the others launching ninjutsu, and then more than a dozen upper ninja next to him to provide support. If the whole picture is still, you can see everyone looking solemnly at the big tube Mokpo style in the middle, ninjutsu and weapons coming from all directions, an endless killing intent shrouded the big tube Mokpo style. But something seemed to be restless in the space, and at the next moment, a strange force erupted from the large barrel of Mokpo-style body. It's a blessing to bring me a big meal when you first came here. Chakra, absorb. The line on the red light fishing rod directly passed through the ninjutsu that shot at him, and a huge amount of chakra instantly passed into Yura's body. Be careful, he is able to absorb someone else's chakra. With a bang, Seiko's knife stabbed at the large barrel of Mokpo-style, and the blade folded under the electric light, reflecting a brilliant light. Poof. The fishing rod in the hand of the large barrel of Mokpo collided violently with the other party, and the sound waves of the two colliding caused a shockwave in the space. On the other side, a fat red-haired man, Konoha's well-known gourmet Akimichi Dingza, appeared. Super multiplication technique. Akimichi Dingza's hands were sealed, and the next moment his figure swelled, turning into a giant tens of meters tall at a speed visible to the naked eye. Seeing this, the big tube of Mokpo-style suddenly shot Saku away, then turned around and stretched out his palm, and a purple light rushed forward, about to shoot towards Akimichi Dingza. Ninja technique, mind chaotic body art. Not far away, Yamanaka Haichi put on a knotted print, and at the same time Narashika on the side clasped his hands. Kage sewing technique black shore flower. In an instant, the movement of the big tube of Mokpo suddenly became uncontrollable, and the whole person stopped there, and then countless black shadows flew out from the ground and grabbed his body. Well done. Haichi, Shikahiza, Akimichi Dingza shouted loudly, super meat bomb chariot, saying that, his entire huge body instantly rolled like a sphere. Get out of here. The big tube of Mokpo-style opened his mouth, and the black shadow that was originally close to him was directly swallowed by him, and at the same time, Narashikahiza's chakra was directly exhausted with the disappearance of the shadow. Haichi, hurry up and lift your mind control. Narashikaku said weakly, but he still said one step late, and saw Yamanaka Haichi also pale and half-kneeling. In just a second, the big tube of Mokpo-style had already sucked up the two Shainin chakras. Then he turned to look at the rushing Akimichi Dingza and showed a greedy smile. Directly stretched out his right hand to block the menacing flesh bomb chariot. Bang! 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 The ground where Urashi was standing immediately cracked, but this huge strength did not make him take half a step back. Another big meal. Then the red light fishing rod wrapped directly around the opponent's body, and the chakra of Akimichi Dingza was completely absorbed by Urashi at an extremely fast speed like a flood without a dike. Eat and drink, it's time to deal with you little bugs. Yura's white eyes began to change, and light blue ripples spread from the pupils. Appeared, blue reincarnation eyes. Seiko and future Noera Rin's expressions became solemn. They had fought with Urashi a lot, naturally knowing how powerful the other party's pupil technique was. You guys be careful, he's serious. Hearing Seiko's words, White Fang and the others also cheered up. Although it is not clear who Seiko is, the strength of the other party is indeed stronger than theirs. If even Seiko were so strict, then their lives might be left here if they didn't pay attention. The white-toothed chakra dagger radiated, and its entire body exploded towards the large barrel of Mokpo-style. Compound Ninja FA Earth Dragon Yanlu. The other Konoha ninjas also rushed directly towards the Oda Kippo style under the attack of the White Fang. 1,000 paper cranes instantaneous. However, at the moment when he was about to attack the big tube of Mupo style, Pusher's body transformed into more than 10 red light 1,000 paper cranes and disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. What? The attacks of White Fang and the others were all in vain, and only Rin Noera and Seiko knew what happened. In particular, Seiko reacted the most quickly, immediately turning around and stabbing in the direction behind him, while Noera Rin also bent down and turned around and punched. The response is good, but I don't seem to have used this trick since I fought with you. Looking at the blade approaching his throat and the fist in his chest, Urashi smiled proudly, and then his reincarnation eyes suddenly bloomed blue. The world froze, as if the entire time and space had been paused, and then the current scene gradually faded. The next moment, Urashi stood intact in place, while Seiko and the others returned to their original positions. Go back in time. One of the abilities of the Otomupo-style reincarnation eye is to return itself from the current point in time to a point in time a few seconds ago. Watching Seiko and the others make the same action again, the same cooperation, Urashi couldn't help but let out a mocking laugh. Huh. This time he did not choose to dodge. In the previous instant, he had actually used this ability to fight Seiko and them dozens of times. Through dozens of battles, Atsuki has a good idea of all the upcoming movements on the opposite side, and has analyzed the most suitable way to deal with it. Tensu Wave Meteor Life. With a one-handed wave of the large barrel of Mokpo style, the red light fishing rod suddenly shot out countless red light fish hooks, shooting towards everyone at 360 degrees. Each shot was extremely accurate. White Fang and Noera Rin and others. Everyone was shot out directly by the red light, and the powerful impact force caused them to smash several surrounding buildings in a row, raising a cloud of sand. And Seiko replaced the debris next to her with the power of the heavenly hand a moment ago, but just when she dodged the red light fish hook, a black shadow shrouded Tensu Wave Meteor Life. Jade Box. I didn't know when it started, the big tube of Mokpo style had already appeared directly above Seiko, and the purple energy ball in his hand was thrown directly. Seiko, White Fang, everyone, looking at the energy ball in the hand of the big tube of Mokpo style, their faces suddenly changed.